When he says it, he means it, and you don't get to bend it and twist it to what you want.
To reach the lost Israelites, the message has to go to everybody, and then the whomsoever wills will come. The ones who he draws will come.
By the way, knowledge meaning what? Having a relationship with the truth. Oh, you learned, and you got tons of information, but have you come into a relationship with truth? And she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate it. Now let's understand what happened here. Did an outside source take her over? Possess her? No. Did it encourage her in a direction that was internally in her? In other words, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, he played on those things. He knew she had that in her. And said to her, well, did he really say that you can't do this? Got her to question. He didn't tell her, don't listen to Yahweh, he lied to you. He said, well, is it true that Elohim told you this? And she's like, well, no, he didn't really say that. He said that we could eat of the trees, but not this one. All right? And so he said, well, that's not true. You won't die. He says, you certainly shall not die. Because he says, but Elohim was just saying that to you because he wanted to keep something from you. You know what? I've got people on a very regular basis saying to me, well, but he knows my situation, and he wouldn't want me to suffer in this way. He wouldn't want me not to have this pleasure. He wouldn't want me to miss my child's graduation or baby shower or whatever it is. He wouldn't want me to, really? That's exactly what she's saying, isn't it? Or he's saying to her. Well, he knows if you do it, it's only going to make you like him, and he's afraid you'll be like him. Oh, but see, this had to be in her, and we know it was because look at what happens in the next verse. She looks and goes, the tree looks like it's good food and desirable and can make one wise. And, if this wasn't in her, it would never have worked. He exposed something that was already there. He did not put it there. If it wasn't there, she would have said, what are you talking about? I always said, don't do it. I'm not doing it. There was never been a thought, well, but it looks good and it'll make me wise and, all this other stuff. It had to be in there. And so my whole point when it says he's led the whole world astray, he's led them in the direction they want to go. But he's led them astray and convincing them that the way you want to go is right. That's the leading astray. To get you to question that Yahweh meant what he said. Well, did he really say that? Or did he maybe mean something a little different? Oh, he really couldn't have meant that. Because he knows it's good for you, going to make you wise and all this other stuff. You'll know good from evil and all that kind of thing. But by the way, the word knowing there, I've made a case, an argument about it being that you will have a relationship with both good and evil. They already knew good from evil. Yahweh said, don't do this, that's evil, and do this, that's good. It's simple as that. But he's saying, look, he knows that you'll be like Elohim. He says you're going to know and have a relationship with both good and evil. Now he's trying to tell you that Elohim has a relationship with evil. He's trying to convince you that that's even part of the deal. And so the enemy does this promoting and marketing to your head in areas that you already have a predisposed weakness. So let's just understand that when we deal with Hasatan, because people say, oh, well, the devil made me do it. The devil doesn't make you do anything. The devil encourages you to do something that you already have a predisposed desire to do. And I've said this over and over again. If you never had any problem with, and you can fill in the blank, he'll never tempt you in that area. Because when he tried, you just like, I'm not interested. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? So it doesn't work. Maybe you have a reason for an experience. I know people used to come up to me and think that somehow it would be tempting to put lobster and all this other stuff in front of me. And I'm like, I never liked it. It's not something that would tempt me. It's not something I've ever been interested in. I've never had a thought to say, man, I'd love to have a big lobster. Okay? And it's not because it's not kosher. It's because that's just nothing in me to tempt me, period. But there's other areas of my life, like there is in your life, where you are absolutely predisposed to not taking all that much to push you over the edge to tempt you. And there's certainly areas in your life where there's zero temptation whatsoever. The enemy's there to help bring all that out. And when you get to that point, we read in 1 John, where there's nothing to tempt anymore because you now have no more predisposed weaknesses, guess what? Now you don't sin. Why do you sin? Because you still want to. Not that you want to sin, but you still want to do whatever the sin thing was. You still have something in you that likes doing it. I know that sounds perverse and bizarre, but it's true. If you didn't want to, you wouldn't do it. Can we agree? I mean, it's really simple. There's a million things you don't want to do, and no matter what I say, you're not going to do them. But there's a few things in your life that you know you shouldn't do, but yet you do them because there's still something inside that likes doing it or likes the result of it or something. Or even if it's not that you like doing it, you like the fact that when you do it, it reminds you that you're still not under anybody's authority. Sometimes you do that just to have a little bit of a something that shows, I'm just going to do this little something just to remind me that I'm not under anybody's authority. Sometimes you do that just out of rebellion. And we know people like that. They do things, and it's not even that they're really interested in doing it, but they just have to show you that you're not in charge. So they do it just to make a point. right? So sometimes it's not that you love the thing or that you still desire it, but you're still trying to make a point that puts you in sin. Instead of making the point, because you make the point, Abba, I'm still not submissive. I'm truly not ready to be under authority. Because you've seen this in your children, and sometimes they do something just to make sure you know that they're not listening, that they're self-sovereign. We're good? Okay, move the main volume up. Main volume slider. No, you guys don't want to. There we go. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Awesome. We'll all rise for the sound of the shofar. You are the light of the world. You are Yah, you are Yah, you are Yahweh. You are the light of the world. You are Yah, you are Yah, you are Yahweh. I want to be wise in your eyes, but all of these lies are surrounded. Amen. Amen. All right, let's go ahead and sing praises to our King.
Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, hey, Behold, Yahweh is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid. For the mighty one is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. For the mighty one is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. Behold, Yahweh is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid. For the mighty one is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. For the mighty one is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation.
Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord.
Arise and shine. Arise and shine. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. And the nations shall come unto thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see, they gather themselves all together. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. And the sons of those who afflicted thee, and all who have despised you will bow down. Then they shall call you the city of the Lord, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. Oh, arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee.
Praise you, Lord, you're the rock of my salvation. You I praise from shore to shore in all your creation. Let it ring from mountain tops, let my voice proclaim the tender mercies of my Lord. Yeshua is his name. Messiah of Israel is he, restorer of our nation. The hope of David now we see, bringing us salvation. Root of Jesse, Lion of Judah, Judge of Israel. Now we praise you for your joy and love that never fails. Jesse, Lion of Judah, Judge of Israel. How I praise you, Lord, you're the rock of my salvation. You I praise from shore to shore in all your creation. Let it ring from mountain tops, let my voice proclaim tender mercies of my Lord. Yeshua is his name. Yeshua is his name.
I was glad when they said to me, come to the house of Yahweh. Standing here in your gates again, up to Jerusalem. truth. And he shall reign over all the earth. 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 He will not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide with the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness judge the poor, and decide with fairness for the meek. And he shall reign over all the earth. 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 He shall gather the outcasts of Israel, the dispersed of Judah from the earth. He shall stand as an ensign for the people, and his resting place shall be glorious. And he shall reign over all the earth. 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 With my lips, I long to bless you. With my mouth, I'll sing your praise. With my eyes, I long to see you. Show me your face. With my ears, I long to hear you. With my hands, I long to touch you. With all my heart, I surrender to you. Let all that is within me bless your holy name. Let
Father, we come before you, and we just want to bless your holy name with all that is within us. And so, Father, we come before you now on this your Sabbath day to praise you, to sing praises to your name, to dance, to make a joyful noise, all to express the joy and the love that flows out of us towards you. And so, Father, we come today on this your Sabbath day, a day that you created to keep us, not so much that we could keep it, but it would keep us. A day to be refreshed, to be restored, to put aside all the cares of this world and all the concerns that'll be there waiting for us on the first day of the week. But at least we can come to this oasis, this separation, this time of just being with you and allowing for that rejoicing and refreshing and restoration. So, Father, we come to you now thankful and appreciative, asking for you to guide and lead all things so that all things would be to your glory and to your honor. As we come to you now in the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 You may be seated. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Another excellent job by the praise team. Fantastic. Good job by the new piano. That sounded good. Great job for the praise team, for the sound team to get that hooked up and ready for today at the last minute, but that was good. Awesome. All right, so this is the time in the tradition here at MTOI and Beth Shalom that we take up the prayers and the praise of the congregation. So if you have one of those, go ahead and raise your hand locally. Austin, come up and grab the mic. Austin's going to be our new mic carrier today as we're training Nate on the admin desk. And so Austin's going to walk around with the mic. And you can just leave it unmuted. That'll be fine so that it won't confuse people. You bring it to the Rebbitzin first. If you're on live stream, we got Kurt and Nate manning the admin desk there, and they will take down your praises and your prayers. Also, for whoever's doing is it me or is it warm in here?
It's very warm.
Okay, so I don't know. David Hayes, wherever you are, come and fix the temperatures in the building. Somebody find David and get him to work on the temperatures. Okay. So if you're on the live stream, they will take down your request. Now, bear in mind that getting your live stream or you're here locally, getting your prayer read out loud does not magically make it more effective or convince Abba to hear it. He hears them all whether we read them out loud or not, okay? So some of them, especially when we have several hundred computers logged on at the same time on the live stream, some of them may be very similar for job-related things or health-related things, and so please don't be offended if we kind of group them together. All right, so we're going to begin with Rebitz and Julie.
Okay, thank you.
Stand up. Who also happens to be my beautiful wife, for those who don't know.
Wait, thank you. Well, thank you. I have a prayer request and a praise. First of all, I want to start with the praise. As a lot of you know, I'm the director of the YM2I program, and we're getting ready for the feast. And I have a praise that Ms. Shira has finished the 3 songs for Katan Aleph and Katan Bet, and they are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So that's a praise report. Your children will be singing some beautiful songs. Prayers for this weekend, as Stephanie has come over for the whole weekend to help me work on finalizing the material for the program for Pesach. So prayers that we will be successful and get a lot of things done, because we always feel we never have enough time. So we'd appreciate your prayers.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, hand it back to Austin. Okay, who's next? All right. Arwen had his hand up by Austin. He passed right by him. Okay, Arwen.
I would just like to pray that the Dilts got down here safe.
Okay, the Diltzes got here safe. Yay! And the rest of the White family. Yay! And Dale's family. Yay! Wow, we just doubled the congregation. All right. Who's next? Okay, Daweed.
I just wanted to thank Abba for his wise counsel coming through leadership and everything. It's been very, extremely helpful. And to be honest, I don't necessarily know how people do it, getting into marriage without counsel.
Amen. Amen. And it's not only getting into it without counsel, but once you're in it, you need to continue to seek counsel. Okay, so Dawid and Kelly have given me permission. You know, they've been dealing with, as everyone does, the adjustments of now being married. And then the moments of going, what in the world did I do? And do I still want to be doing this? And they're doing great, but they're having the normal struggles that, of course, to them, they don't know it's normal because marriages and couples do have their struggles. So in talking about some of their issues, I said, well, one of the ways that you can resolve this is that I can write you a get, and you can get out of the marriage, so to speak. And so this morning, I brought them a get, but it's a kind of interesting way. They said I could read it to you. Get back to your first love. Get right with Yahweh. Get back together. Get Rabbi involved in a timely manner. Get over it. Get peace. Get wisdom. Get emotionally stable. Get your act together. Get committed. That could be taken in more than one way. I bet you didn't realize that when you read it. Get your feelings back in the bag. Get your eyes on your plank. Get a grip. Get a clue. Get happy. Get on with it. Get back to your wedding vows. And most importantly, get chocolate. And at the bottom it says, do you get it? And anybody wants a copy to hang in their house, you're welcome for me to print it out for you. Because they were a little concerned when I said that I brought the get for them, like as if I'm thinking they may break up. I said, no, you got to read it first. And so I appreciate that you said I could share that. And most importantly, don't forget to get chocolate. Okay, now. Can you get your get? Yes, here. Come and get it. All right. All right, let me just say something, and we're going to do teachings on this at some point, but let me just say something, okay? First of all, for all of you that watch other couples and they seem like they never have an issue in the world, they're just good in public, so just know that, okay? And if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. Every couple has its problems and its struggles, okay? And so don't you think, oh, it's only us, and you talk to your spouse like, well, don't you see so-and-so and so-and-so? They look like they're blissfully happy. Looks like is the key words, okay? Because they are at times, just like you are at times. So don't think just because other people have figured out how to do the public display and not show the times when they're not, so that you can't tell the difference. Sometimes the public display is real. Sometimes it's because they don't want to show everybody what they're struggling with, and that's okay. That's good. The public doesn't need to be involved. So I'm not picking on them for being phony or something. They're just better at keeping it and containing it privately. But recognize this. Men and women are not designed to be together. Not if they stay men and women. If a man can go through the conforming and transforming into the image of a husband. See, a husband's a different type of man. Same thing with the woman. A woman is not designed to live with a man forever and get along and everything else until she transforms and conforms into this thing called a wife. Husbands and wives can get along perfectly. Problem is, you jump out of those roles and you start acting like a man and a woman. And that's when you struggle. Okay? Maybe you need to take that home and process it. Okay? Because it's when your man or woman side is getting offended and upset and everything else, you're stepped out of wife and husband. And that's when you're getting the real struggle. Stay in wife and husband. Now, of course, you were raised as, to grow up and be a man, grow up and be a woman. And then now you're told, wait a minute, no, you need to be the special type of woman or special type of man called husband or wife, okay? And that works perfectly. Problem is, we're not really good at staying in that space. Most of us don't even understand what that looks like. So some of you are thinking, can we have classes that explain what that looks like? And we will, okay? What does a husband look like? What does a wife look like? Because, I think that we struggle because we're men and we're women, and we're very different. The Venus-Mars analogy that the guy wrote in that book is not really that far off, okay? And so just recognize that. Okay, so everybody struggles, because I think sometimes, especially with a new couple, they're thinking, nobody must be struggling like we are. No, everybody does, okay? At times, not all the time, but neither do you. You guys don't always struggle, but everybody struggles. But this is so new to you, you don't know what's normal or not, okay? And so it's tough. That's why those gets are important. Especially the last one before the chocolate, which is get back into where your vows were. You meant those words when you said all those wonderful things because you guys wrote your own. And keep that in front of you. Play back the video if you have to. And remember, that is you saying those words. Okay? Anyway, just wanted to spend a few moments. Hopefully that blessed a few people. And it was funny too. And I do want to thank Stephanie and the Rebbitzin for contributing 2 or 3 of those. That was very good. So thank you. Okay. No, wait a minute. I put the chocolate one. Don't take credit from that, Miss. Now, you were very excited about that idea because I know how you feel about chocolate. Okay, so, but I put the chocolate one. Okay. Okay, you put like get a grip. Okay, one of you said get a grip. It's my chocolate, okay? And don't get a grip on my chocolate. It's my chocolate. And Kurt, just so you know, I do have the Magnum triple chocolates in my house, and nobody gets those either, so we're good. Oh, you can come over. I got one for you. Yeah. Okay, that's an inside joke. Okay, now, on to important things like prayer requests and praise reports. Where's the mic? Okay, Billie Jean.
I was just about to say, let's get on with it, but...
I didn't put get patience.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I need to amend
Thank
the
you.
sheet. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have a praise and I have a prayer request. I just wanted everybody to know that I hadn't left. I've been home with ailments, but my praise is, I don't know if any of you know how bad I was having with my knee, which was terrible. I could not walk on it almost for a whole week. I couldn't even walk on it. And I had made an appointment with an orthopedic doctor. And the first of the week, I got up and I was walking, and I have not had a pain since.
Oh,
so praise
man.
Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
Yes. And then I had a prayer request, but I forgot. Pray for my memory.
Absolutely.
But
if I remember to.
Okay. But it was probably for my son. My son John's in real bad shape again, and just keep him in your prayer. Thank you.
Absolutely. Amen. Okay, we got more hands up over here. All right, bring it to Christine. Hey, Christine, you're getting outnumbered by multiple Christinas. We're going to get me more Christines in here to balance that out. Okay. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to praise the Father for a wonderful week. It was really stressful, actually, the past 2 weeks. Yesterday we had parent conferences at school, and that's always challenging and a lot of other things too. But it went really well, and I just want to say I love those kids, and so I want to praise the Father for that opportunity to work with them and their families, and then also praise Him for the possibilities of what we all been talking about with the co-op and stuff. So I'm excited, and if you're interested, please come talk to me later on today. And then also, finally, I want to praise the Father for my wonderful husband, who has kept me grounded in the past week and a half and been really helpful. So.
Yeah, good job, David. Hey, I know you.
Hello.
Introduce yourself to everybody, Mr. Chris.
Chris White. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to thank Abba for getting us here safe. And we had a few little hiccups on the way, but we made it. So, and just pray for me to find a job so we can get that going again. So.
Amen. Amen. Well, we're glad you guys made it here safe. even if you came in waves, but we're glad that you got all here. Awesome. And right away, if you notice, for those of you that are here, you can notice, we got everybody, even when they first show up, we put them right to work. We got some of your boys over behind on the board, soundboard area, and doing some things, and you know. And actually, that's another big praise is, I don't know if you noticed, but over the last month or so, we've got a lot of the Gadol class teenagers on cameras and on video boards and all kinds of stuff getting in there, and it's really great to see, the teenagers stepping up and getting trained and serving, and it's just great. All right, who's next? Okay, Deirdre?
Thank you, Rabbi, first of all, for mentioning difficulties. A while ago, I announced that my husband had decided to go into the military, and while I was very proud of him, my woman's heart was like, well, wait, no, I don't like this. So we talked about it over and over and over again, and I brought it to Rabbi. And my husband, he's not a warrior, but he's trying very hard to be a warrior and a man and a husband. And I brought it to Yahweh and I said, Abba, I do not like this situation, but I want what you want for him. So I'm going to let him go. I'm going to take whatever you say is the right way to go. Just please help me deal with it if you take him away from me. Last week, he works nights every other weekend. And he woke me up at 6 o'clock in the morning when he got home. He said, honey, I'm sorry to wake you up. I need to talk to you. And right away, I'm like, oh, what is this? And he looked me in the eye and he said, I'm not going into the military.
Yay!
He said, I'm going to focus on what is in front of me now. And that is how I can be a warrior, is to not run away from it.
Awesome. And so you can encourage him that he can be the hero in that house.
Amen.
Okay? He doesn't need to be a hero on a bigger stage. He could be a hero right there in that house. All right, Stephanie.
It was already on, sorry. I'm sure that you're going to say this in the weeks to come, but as we approach the feast, a lot of us tend to get under attack for our own individual things. And me and my family are no exception. And with all the serving and stuff that goes on, I guess my prayer is really that Abba will help us to glorify him, that he will be glorified at the feast for the efforts that go into it, knowing that there are storms kind of swirling around us outside of what's happening there. And I'm just sure that there are so many other people on live stream and here who could tell our individual stories. I'm not going to, but I'm just going to kind of put out there, we all have our storms that we're dealing with, and I just pray that the Father will be glorified at the feast with us all being able to show up and tell our victory stories of how we've overcome and gotten there anyway, and that we will pass the test.
Amen. Amen. Well said. But listen, I got to remind everyone, okay, so, let's not forget that we are still subject to some of the Christianized indoctrination, which includes our fear of, don't speak that, it'll come. We don't believe in the boogeyman from that point of view. In other words, the boogeyman is not just believing in the devil or something. It's the idea of if you say his name, he shows up or something, okay? And so some people say, oh, no, don't talk about bad things happening between now and the feast because now you're making it happen. That's not the way it works. I know you've been taught that your whole life and you've been afraid of it, but that's just not true. And so we need to be aware that if you're doing that, you're believing in some sort of superstitious, sort of pagan thing. And don't get all wrapped up in that. What we're doing is we're using logic and wisdom and experience to say that the enemy tends to get very busy trying to distract and to discourage Abba's people around the times to celebrate him. And that's just a reality. And so we are aware and ready for it. We're not afraid of it. But certainly we can pray that it would either not happen or be minimal because the enemy's still going to do what he's going to do. Okay? So, but because Stephanie said it, some people might be online going, no, don't speak that. Oh, goodness. Like when you say, I've said to people, I feel like I think I have a cold coming on. Oh, no, don't claim that. Who's claiming that? I'm just saying I think I got a cold coming on. Okay? But you're coming still from that name it, claim it, fear-based, whatever type of thing that goes on. Let's not do that, okay? Okay, we need to use our experience and what Abba teaches us, and logic and wisdom and understanding to go and look at life and say, these things have a pattern of happening, and it's not because you make the mistake of having it come out of your mouth. Okay, the enemy has an agenda, and the main agenda is to discourage you so you won't continue on the path. One of the best ways to do that is to mess with you right before a feast. So these things happen fairly regularly, and we should not worry about it. But just be aware so that we don't fall into the trap of being discouraged by it. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. Okay, where's the mic? Okay, Rick?
Praise and a prayer request. Praise Abba for us getting here. You know, travels were good coming down Tuesday. We didn't find a house yet, but so I'm praying for Abba's leading and Emunah in finding a home here, and for safe travel going home tonight. It's going to rain it's going to snow like 5 to 7 inches in Pennsylvania starting tomorrow morning. So we'll be heading out right after Kiddush and Motzi pretty much. So prayer for safe travel back.
You're not going to stay for Five Guys.
I was, but so just prayer for that, and just what a blessing it is being here. And everybody out there, this is the place to be.
Amen. And to all your
Shalom.
Marco Polo friends, right?
Right.
There you go. It's always great when the people that have been on the live stream get their opportunity to come here and be here and get on the other side of the camera. Okay, where's the mic? All right, Craig.
Yes, I would like to praise Abba for all that he does to serve the body through MTY and through YM2Y. And also just finished my first week at a new job, and went very well. They have a lot of issues to kind of sort out in their office. They're just starting to run their own crews, but the pay is not super great, but in 30 days they'll do a review, and it is more than I've ever made working for somebody else. So
Awesome.
just want to praise him for that.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, who's next? The mic's coming around this way. Anybody? Okay, Rob?
Just a quick prayer for my wife, Tamara. She got real sick yesterday or last night after we did our, after we ate. She just wasn't feeling good. She's not feeling well at all right now, so just a quick prayer for her.
Okay. We certainly can pray for Tamara. All right, anybody else? Okay, bring it over to Kurt.
Okay, we have Diane Bloom. Prays that my children and grandson are home with me for a visit. I said praise, I'm sorry. And prayers for a cousin that was just diagnosed with colon cancer. She had 2 young sons and will be having surgery in the coming weeks. Janet Hoffman, please continue to pray for complete healing for Valentina. She's doing much better. All praise and thanks to Yahweh. Employee Lakeview, prayer for many here as there are many who are sick. April Dykes, please pray for my husband Kevin, who'll be having several tests on his heart this week. Stacy Valise, please pray for my son's eye surgery to be successful. Elizabeth and Harold Olson, pray for our daughter who is in the hospital with fractured hip, and we are taking care of our 6-year-old granddaughter. I'm not sure about this name, but it says prayer for my mother, or my mom, who has a tumor found during a colonoscopy. We're praying that is benign. Harrison Bryce, wisdom tooth surgery this past Wednesday went well, but I've been having a fair amount of discomfort from it, which is causing me to be pretty stressed out. Ask for prayer as I continue to heal. May Johnson prays that the biopsy on my son Luke showed the melanoma didn't go past the skin level, so will be removed and no further treatment needed. Ben Callender, bless my wife Amy as she is in quite a bit of discomfort. She's about 33 weeks along with our 5th son. Praise Yah for both of their health so far. Jack Oxenrider, please pray for a local mishpachah who had a stillborn birth. So sad. Maura Smith, please pray for my continued needs physically so I can have less pain and more mobility. Cheryl, prayers for my stepsister who will be having surgery for lung cancer on the 14th, for healing emotional wounds, and that Yah will open her eyes to his truth, and she has an unspoken. Arthur and Linda Nakanechi, a prayer request for Joyce Gilbert family in Quebec. Joyce's mother of 87 years passed away last Sunday. Got Anna Dye, a prayer request, please that my migraines stop. Jessica Phillips, prayers for my sister Victoria Jones, who was taken to the ER last night and admitted with extremely low potassium and lung issues. Prayers for healing and answers. Isabel Garcia. It says Isabel Garcia from Isabel Vera. Please pray for my father, for he does have stage 2 stomach cancer. Through this time, will our faith get stronger, and for my dad's eye and ears to be open to the truth. M2I Lakeview, Ohio. Prayer for Lisa's nephew, whose fiance is still in the hospital with transplanted kidney failure. Her name is Ashley, and they are to be married on May 9th. April Dykes. Pray for my sister Lynn. She is going through several medication changes, which are causing her pain, weakness, and anxiety to be worse. Alyssa Holmes, pray for my twin sister. She had a lot going on in her life, and she is very depressed. The way she wants to solve it is to end her life. I can't seem to talk her out of it. Her name is Candace. I have Lisa. Please everyone keep me in your prayers. I'm still having a difficult time dealing with my brother's death, and I need peace over this. Donna Smith, please pray for my coworker, Nicole, whose son AJ was in a horrible car accident yesterday. He has several brain injuries and is on a ventilator in ICU. Their baby was born 4 weeks early last week. Let's see what I missed online. All right, Donna Smith's clarification. AJ and his wife had the baby. His wife has been in the hospital with blood clot when he had the car accident. All right, Greg Wallen, prayer for Mary, tripped on or by our dog Max, knee skin twisted and hurt, also back and hip pain. All right, Georgia, prayer for Caroline Thomas on Ladies Marco Polo. Her husband is having surgery on March 12th. She's his caretaker and is trying to finish her schooling. And that's brings us up to date.
Amen. Amen. Okay, certainly we could pray for all those things. And we do appreciate all the praise reports and all of the people laying out their prayers there and for us to be able to go before the Father with. Let me add a few things real quickly here. First of all, as all the Marco Polo men already know, if you're dealing with any health issue, the cure is flog sauce. Just in case that's an inside joke. Never mind. Okay, that's for you guys. Don't even ask. It's not worth it. Okay. And it's not about flogging, it's golf spelled backwards, but never mind. Okay. You know what I'm talking about, right? A couple other guys. No, seriously, there's a couple things I want to add here. So first of all, I want to make sure that we absolutely welcome all the families that are now here, because we have some guests, but we also have some families that have now just moved here, and you guys all seem to arrive at the same time, which is really great. And so we really appreciate that, the Whites, the Diltzes, etc. And I know, Dale, you're happy to have your family back, everybody together in one place. And so it's really great to have all that. So we're really excited about that. Okay. I do want to update on a couple of other things. So, so for those of you that are aware, I think you're all aware, the Losies are no longer a part of Beth Shalom or MTOI. But I want to clarify a few things. Because some of you may have wondered, well, if you knew that they were not, last week was the last week, why didn't we do anything last week for Robert? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The one is I didn't know. Okay, he told me that he was going to be ending on the 8th. And then things didn't, but he had told other people that last week was his last week, but he hadn't told me. Okay? So I'm not picking on him at all. I'm just telling you I was not aware. Okay, so just so in case people are wondering. But also I want you to understand this very awkward position. I guess, I don't know if he's watching or not, but the awkward position I was in that I don't know how much to celebrate or not celebrate or have a get-together for someone who has been very much a blessing to this ministry, but is essentially leaving it, okay? And leaving it, not just moving to some place where we're not, but leaving it, okay? So it's a very mixed emotions thing. And for those of you that want to understand, well, what happened? Because everyone will say, well, what happened? I don't know specifically. I can have my guesses, but he did not give a reason specifically when he left. And so I respected that. I didn't pry any further. I think we should just go with what he said on his, Facebook post, that it's about his journey and his family's journey, and we respect that. Okay, so I hold no negative, feelings towards them, and you shouldn't either. But I'm just letting you know that if you want to understand, like, well, they're not here, and why didn't, I'm only working with the information that I had. Okay? So just so that's clear, because some people might think that somehow we slighted them or didn't do this. I thought he was going, as of last week, I thought this was going to be his last week. It turned out that was not the case. Okay? That's not his fault or my fault. It was just obviously a miscommunication there somewhere. And so, just to be clear, we have, at this point, still some terrific guys. We still have Kurt Meyer, who is our shamash, so we're very excited for that. And, of course, our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Tom Mitchell. Okay? And the rest of the MTOI leadership, as well as we will be probably adding a few ordinations at Passover. Okay, we have some people that we will elevate, so that could be good for that, okay? And some of you may be wondering who, including those people, because I haven't told them yet. So I will be talking to Kurt and Rabbi Tom and others as we discuss who we might be working with. There are a few people, I think, at least one or two that we might need to go ahead and move up to the level of shamash. And so you'll have more people designated to help serve you in that capacity, okay? All right, so if you have any other questions about the other situation, feel free to ask me after services. I really don't think I'll have anything more to add, but you're certainly welcome to ask. Okay, now on another note, I want prayer for me to deal with my attitude because somebody got in there and bought that property out from under us. And so it may not go through, but it does have an accepted offer. Okay? And so that happened yesterday. No? When did it happen? Thursday? Or yesterday? I'm trying to think. We were so mad about it. Yesterday morning. Okay, we put an offer in Thursday, only to find out that it had already gotten accepted. Okay, so we were not happy to find that out. We believe there's some shady things that happened, and we're still looking into how we can prove that and if it makes any difference in terms of the realtors handling the deal. But that property is gone at the moment, the Calhoun property, okay? Even though we had gotten all of our ducks in a row and put in an offer, we put it in late Friday afternoon, only to find out that Friday morning they had accepted another offer. No, Thursday morning, they had accepted another offer. And we put it in Thursday afternoon. Now, of course, the realtor never told us that when we told them on Wednesday that we were going to be placing an offer Thursday. So I don't know what was going on there. We're looking into it. We're not happy. But Abba could be protecting us from something that we didn't and couldn't have seen at that property. Okay? So I know that it gets a little frustrating because we get our hopes and expectations up and then things don't seem to work out. How do you think Israel felt every time they went to a town, got all settled in, and then the fire or cloud would move? Like, I was happy over here. Okay? So we have to just let Abba lead. All right? And so just, the good news is we got all of our ducks in a row so that if we ever get ready to buy something else, we are ready to be able to put that in. We know exactly our limits to what we can offer to do and all of that kind of thing. So that's good. All right? And for all those out there who are listening to people who are blah, blah, blahing about our finances and everything else, as of next week or the week after, we will have fully audited books. And so that should alleviate anybody's thoughts, okay? Who's out, because people out there love to point fingers about stuff they have no idea what they're talking about. All right, so we will have that. And we do expect that we'll give you some sort of a pie chart of sorts that'll tell you, like, what's gone to CDs and things and what's gone to salaries and what's gone to other. We should maybe put something together so you can have an idea of how the money gets dealt with in terms of, at least percentage-wise, without specific numbers, but that way at least you'll kind of know how things are going, okay? And so we're planning to try to give you some more information. We don't want to give all the details exactly because there are people out there that when they know the details, they will take that as a green light to come and beg and try to get advantage of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so we don't want to do that. Okay, as it is, we get enough of that unsolicited, in other words, without giving more information. So, we've got people that will call us up, ask for benevolence. They don't know who we are. We don't know who they are. And then they get mad at us when I say, well, who are you? Do you know us? And, they just looked us up and found us on the web and just figured you're a church, you're a ministry, you should just help me. I was like, well, I don't know who you are. And you don't know who we are. Okay, we need a little bit more information than that. Because I don't think that you'd be surprised to find out that there are scamming people out there. Okay, who just are benevolent sponges who call every ministry they can, and they're living up the life on the multiple benevolences they're getting from everybody. Okay? So we want a benevolence, we want to help people, we just don't want to get taken advantage of. And hopefully you understand that. Okay, so I just want to put that out there, but please keep in prayer. I'm recognizing that obviously this other property, was not either that or the deal's going to fall through and then we'll be able to come in there and get it for the price that I wanted to offer, not the price I would have gone up to, because after all, now they're coming in a much more needy position, and maybe that helps us save a few dollars and actually get the property. Because it's a big property and it's an expensive property, and that means that not every deal necessarily is going to go through as it pushes through. So we'll see. We'll have to see. In the meantime, keep praying that Abba will show us where he wants us to get the feast site, etc. Now, the reason I really like this place is because it was only 40 minutes from here. It wasn't like in another state there's lots of really large, beautiful properties in Tennessee we could buy that are 2-3 hours away. Okay? Lots of really beautiful ones in North Carolina, South Carolina, all the bordering states in North Georgia. They're just far away. All right? And so this would have been allowing us to have something we could build the yeshiva on and everything else, and it'd be a lot closer by. All right? And so that's why I was kind of excited about it. But some of you may be thinking, well, why'd you wait so long, Rabbi? Because we needed to make sure we had all of our financial ducks in a row, that we could show and have books and audits and all those things, okay? And so that was important, because I know that you would want us to be fiscally responsible. And so I was not going to get us involved in something that was going to be a burden or problem to us. Amen? Okay. So if you have questions about that, you're certainly welcome to ask them also after services. All right, so that's going to do it for the prayers. I do want to make sure we are praying for all the people that have contacted us during the week. Also be patient, as there are now some changes in the way we handle the phone system, which is going to that's also a prayer request. Those of you that really need to reach us, just be patient. The new phone number, how about this? Let's make sure, we should make a slide for this so we have it, so we keep putting it up there. The new phone number is 423-250-3020. Okay, make sure you have the new phone number, 423-250-3020. That phone at the moment does not yet have all of the little menu buttons where if you need counseling and it's after hours, you push a button, it'll forward you to me or whoever we have answering phones. So right now you may end up getting voicemails after hours. We are going to get that all worked out. I know you're kind of spoiled and used to either Robert or myself answering phones almost any hour of the day. We will get back to where we're more available as soon as we get our phone system thing all worked out, including having the phone just forward to me in the meantime, etc. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If we're not as reachable, it's a temporary thing. Okay, we will get that sorted through with the new system, being fully implemented. Praise Yah, my office and the other offices that were getting renovated are almost finished. So that's really good. And once I can move into there, then I'll also be able to free up the space that I've been using, which is really the Gadol classroom, and we can move Manny over to that side also, and those spaces can start being used for classes. And so we can do some programming, okay? We are also looking to host a Financial Peace University. Please pray that will help and be a blessing to people with their finances. We may be doing that as of like May 1st or something. Whenever we get back, when we get back from Passover, we might be doing it at that point. It's a 9-week program. Okay. Anyway, that's it for the prayers. Let's go ahead and pray. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. Father, we come before you and we want to pause and recognize before we ask for anything or say anything more, we want to recognize you as our King, as having full sovereignty over all that exists because you created it and brought it into existence. And so, Father, we recognize your majesty and your awesomeness and your power, your authority in all things, especially in our lives. And then in recognizing that, we recognize that there should be and is no other place to bring our praises and our prayers. So, Father, we lift you up and we thank you and we praise your holy name for the authority in our lives as we submit to you in walking this out and transforming into the image of Yeshua. And so, Father, we praise you for everything, the small and great little miracles and the big things in our lives that you do every day and all the time to help us to see and to know that you're aware of our lives and what's going on and that you care. And so, Father, we want to thank you. We want to appreciate you, and we want to praise your holy name. We also want to come to you with our needs and our concerns. We're fully aware that you know them before we say them, but that you desire for your children to come and approach you. And we do come and approach you, Father, and beseech your intervention in these things. The stuff that we said, that was as well as what was unspoken. And that, Father, you would hear our prayers because we come to you knowing that you do hear and answer all prayer. We also accept that the answer may not be the answer we thought or we wanted or we desired, but that you do hear the prayers and that your answer is always the right answer. And so, Father, help us to embrace and accept that. So, Father, we come to you now so overwhelmed with appreciation, with honor, with reverence and awe for you coming to the throne of glory, that we come before you now in authority, praising your name in the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 All right, if you'll all rise for the liturgy. And Dawid will come up and do the liturgy. If you have cell phones, I would encourage you again to turn them off.
Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Yahweh HaMevorach. Baruch Yahweh HaMevorach leolam vaed. Bless Yahweh, who is blessed. Blessed be Yahweh, who is blessed forever and ever. Amen. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, thy tabernacles, Yisrael. Ve'ani berov chazdecha avo vetecha eshtachave el heichal kodshecha be'yiratecha. And in thy great compassion I will come into your house. There I will bow, there I will fear thy holiness, O Yah, O Yah. Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod le'olam waed. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Ve'ahavta, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen. Mi chamocha ba'elim Yahweh, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nora tehilot ose fele, ose fele. Who is like you, Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like you, mighty in holiness? You are awesome in praise, doing wonders, Yahweh, doing wonders, Yahweh. Veshamru. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה יהוה, עשה יהוה את השמיים והארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Together. And the children of Israel shall keep the Shabbat, to make the Shabbat throughout their generations an eternal covenant between me and the children of Israel. It is a sign forever that in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get the chuppah set up. So just give us a few moments. Leave that there. Okay, and so once we get the chuppah set up, we'll invite the children underneath. All right, children, come on under. right. All right, come on under. All right, so I think we got everybody underneath here. Okay, if you'll extend your hearts and hands toward the children, be led in the children blessing by Rob Wyatt.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to gather together to do a blessing under the hoopah of our children, the parents or the guardians of these wonderful blessings, that you guard their hearts and that you guard our hearts and teach us that we can teach them the way that they should go. And Father, just watch over them, keep them safe. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen, amen. Okay, children, you're dismissed to your classrooms. Take that, thanks. The rest of you may be seated. Okay. And Kurt, for future reference, I have a key. Just so you know. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay. Well, we get everybody settled in as the children go to their classrooms. Fantastic. It's such a blessing to have so many children. And to see, if the master should tarry, that is the future right there. And it's just a real big blessing to have so many children. Actually, I think it's a blessing that we have from newborns all the way up to those in their 90s. We have everything covered all the way in here. And so it's a very, very good just age range coverage, It's just fantastic. I was at a conference once where, to make a point, person who was doing the teaching had everybody stand up and then said, everybody who is, 70 or older sit down, then 60 or older and 50 or older. And eventually they got down to about 25 and there was nobody left. There was no future in that group. See, we could keep going all the way to like less than one. That's a real exciting thing right there. Okay, Hamaseh v'hatruma, the tithes and offerings. Now, we don't take up a formal offering here at the congregation, but we do have a box in the back of the room, as well as donation buttons on the live stream and on our website at mtoi.org. The purpose of tithing, as we understand it, is to teach us to always put Yahweh first in our lives and to appreciate His abundant blessings. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who commanded us and made promises to us concerning the tithe and the offerings. May you open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that cannot be contained as we walk in these mitzvot, these commandments. Amen. Amen. All right, so for those of you that would like to do more in terms of supporting the ministry, I know some of you do, but you don't have other funds to actually send, then we have a program. We work with Amazon, so we're Amazon affiliates, and we're part of the Amazon Smile program. So if you do shop on Amazon, and you're going to shop there anyway, well then, if you take the extra few seconds to go to our website, or to sign up at smile.amazon.com, your purchases will generate a small amount that comes to MTOI, either as a referral for the Amazon program, affiliate program, or as a donation through the Smile program. And so you're welcome to take advantage of those things, but obviously not on Shabbat. Okay, so not today. But, of course, some of you are living in places where it's no longer Shabbat. Okay, but then we're not dealing with the Amazon in New Zealand or something. It's Amazon USA and that kind of a thing. So, today, of course, we want to make sure to welcome our guests, and we do have some guests. Of course, some of our guests are really a part of us and have been a part of us for a while, but have not really gotten to come down here all that much, so we're excited to have you guys here. And some of you are relocating and are now here, which is exciting as well. You know, Abraham was known for his hospitality. I'm sure we have guests even on the live stream, and we should make the effort to make our guests feel welcome, okay? Because we are children of Abraham. After services, we have our oneg, our fellowship meal, and you're all welcome to stay and participate in that. Let's just be a clarification for oneg. If you don't know what to bring, you could always ask the ladies who are in the kitchen that seem to have it organized on a regular basis, people like Amy and Christine that have that going on, or my wife, but also understand that you're supposed to be bringing, after all, if you didn't come here, you'd be eating at home, bringing enough food for your family and a few others, because guests may show up, as they almost always do, okay? And if you're single, you could always bring something, okay? Because after all, you were going to go home and eat something, okay? And so maybe you're saying, but I was going to go home and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay, so don't necessarily bring that, but you can bring chips, you can bring drinks. There's things you can bring, okay? So if you could talk to the ladies, they can help you out with that. I mean, generally speaking, we have enough food. I just seem to notice that it's only a handful that are pretty much supplying the food for most of the people. So let's see if we can all chip in and bring it. Worst comes to worst, you bring the leftovers home. Actually, worst comes to worst, we end up staying here for like 4 hours and eat it twice. Because we do that anyway, okay? Because then you're hungry again. All right, so don't worry about that. Okay, calendar stuff, upcoming stuff. So today after services, we're going to have a staff meeting. So those of you that are a part of the local congregation staff, MTOI staff, as well as the feast staff, if you're involved in any kind of leadership position in terms of authority at here locally, MTOI at large, or at the feast events, we're going to have a meeting after Oneg, and so we'll announce it during Oneg where we're going to do it and how we're going to do it. Probably we'll be doing it either in the conference room table back here or upstairs, okay? But I'll announce that after we eat. All right, then on Tuesday, of course, is our weekly Torah study. We have that every Tuesday, and so we encourage everybody to come to that. It's Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's using Adobe Connect. The link to it is on our website. It's the same link all the time, so we should actually is the link on the slide? No? Okay, we could even put the link so people know, because we don't change it. I think it's something like mtoi.adobeconnect.com/Torah study or something like that. What's it called? Midrash? Okay, so /Midrash. All right? All right, but if you don't have that link, you can always go to the mtoi.org website, and the link will be on the page there. Okay. Then we've got a lot of things happening this month. I mean, you are going to be busy getting together and being with each other. So on Friday, next week, on Friday the 8th, that is going to be Rosh Chodesh for Adar the 2nd. So we're going to be in the last month there, Adar 2, Rosh Chodesh. And that will be at 6:30 p.m., followed by an Erev Shabbat gathering together here Friday night. Now, it'll be at the end of, the Rosh Chodesh will actually be on that Friday. Okay, so it'll actually be on the first, almost going into the second. So, but we will have it because it'll be before sundown by the time we get going. Okay. Also, because Rosh Chodesh services only takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and sundown is like 6:40 something, whatever it'll be. So, it won't be a problem. Also on March the 10th. Okay, this is important. So on that weekend after Rosh Chodesh, we move the clocks ahead. So Saturday night into early Sunday morning, the clocks move ahead an hour. And so this is important because those of you that are listening on live stream, the leadership people, especially you guys in South Africa, the time difference between here and where you are will be 1 hour less starting in March for the next months until we move the clocks again in October or so. So we are going to do leadership. I know I don't like to do this, but it's going to only be the way it could work out, to do leadership meetings or any kind of meetings on days when we move the clocks around. Because inevitably, people forget. All right, we'll make sure to announce it next Saturday to remind everybody. But on that Sunday, next Sunday, we will be having the leadership meetings, okay, for South Africa and the full council. And so that will be at the normal time. Don't forget to move your clocks ahead an hour so that you're on time to the meetings, okay? Move your clocks ahead an hour so you're on time for the meetings. All right. Let's see. Because if you're thinking it's 1 o'clock and the meeting's starting and it's really now 2 o'clock because the clocks have changed, you will miss it by an hour. Of course, we go long enough that you won't miss the whole meeting, but Okay, so then March 13th through the 18th, I will be out of town. So you guys will be responsible to help keep my family, safe and okay while I'm gone for a couple of days. I'll be going also with David Hayes. We're going to go to a conference to bring back some materials, personal development stuff that we're going to be adding into the classes that we're doing. Okay? So we have an opportunity to go to something. It's a 4-day thing, and so we're only going to miss 25% of it by missing Sabbath. So we'll get it all day Thursday, all day Friday, and part of Sunday. So we'll get most of it, and we'll see if they'll have things recorded so we can get whatever we would have missed on Saturday. So that'll be good. So David and I will be gone from 13th to the 18th. And then on March 22nd, okay, we're having our Purim celebration and another Erev Shabbat gathering. Okay? And remember, by then, 6:30 is when we'll get together for the Purim celebration. Purim will be on Thursday and Friday. And so, again, we'll be doing it before sundown. Sundown at that point will be 8:30 or so, or 8:40, because we'll have already moved the clocks. Okay? So we should have no problem getting our Purim celebration in while it's still Shushan Purim, really, on that date. Okay? So Erev Shabbat service after that, or to gathering after that. We may figure out to do it as an Erev Shabbat service using the service that we use at the feasts, and a lot of you use in your homes that we have on our website, and we may go ahead and do that here locally and have a little Erev Shabbat service as well. Okay? And we may do that on the 8th and the 22nd or something like that. We'll see. Okay. So we're going to have 2 Erev Shabbats here at the building this month. That's pretty exciting. A lot going on. All right, yeah, you can clap for that. All right. April, then the 19th through 28th, that's Passover. And so go ahead and make sure to get your paperwork in for Passover. We do have 31 rooms available at this point. Okay, we got 237 people registered by phone, 169 adults and small children, 68 YM2I, and we have 80 completed forms received. Now bear in mind, if you called us to register, we don't have your paperwork, you're not really registered. You're penciled in. We don't get your paperwork, and we will be getting in touch with you maybe to find out are you actually really coming. You must follow up with paperwork and a check or online PayPal donation, registration payment to make that all be official, okay? Okay, so make sure that you call. You'll talk to Stacia Hayes and get yourself registered. All right, so, and I appreciate having those numbers available each week so I can announce them. And if you notice, the numbers haven't changed very much because we're in that sort of zone that's between the excitement of everybody doing that rush to register, then it gets quiet for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then the last 3 or 4 weeks, once we get to the end of March, it'll get a flurry again. So don't think, oh, they got 30 rooms, there's no rush. Those will go quickly as we get towards the end of March, okay, and we get near April. Because all those people that weren't sure if they could come, that are trying to figure it out, some of them will get it figured out and be able to come, and those rooms are all going to go. So just so you know. Okay. Let's see. I think that's going to do it for the announcements. The Rebbitzon's not in here, so I can't check with her, but I think that's going to do good for it. There will be, let's see, we're doing this Friday. We should have had a sign-up sheet for the Rosh Chodesh. Just stick around right after services, and we'll see if we need to just hand make quickly a sign-up sheet for Rosh Chodesh, okay? But I think what we're going to do is we're going to do it not like we've done the last couple of times with the whole haystacks, everybody bringing different things. We're just going to do it like we do after services. Everybody bring food for your family and a few others, okay? And then we'll all sit together. We're going to do it just like we do now at Oneg. I think it makes it simpler. And if anybody has an emergency where they don't show up and they were bringing some key piece of it, we're in trouble. And so we'll avoid that, issue that can come up. Okay. And I think that should do it. And of course, if all that doesn't work, just get chocolate. I'm going to get the mileage out of that as best I can. Okay. So, all right. Let's go ahead and get reset for the teaching. All right. Now, in case you guys who play along on Tuesday nights are wondering what was the right shirt to wear, well, if you see that my family is generally purple today, if you guessed purple, you were correct. I don't know why lately we've been all wearing the same color, but we have. Mostly it's because Stephen asked me to wear what he was wearing, but then I think Julie's wearing purple too, so anyway. Not really important. Phones, turn them off. Let's make sure to do that. Oh, for those of you that we didn't give you an update, for those of you that were wondering with my sleep things, with the CPAP and now the BiPAP, a big praise. The app on my phone is now working so that I could actually get a report from each day so I know it, because it wasn't working for the whole month I had the CPAP. But now I put the new information in for the new machine, and last night I had 4.6 events per hour, which is down from 35. That's some good stuff. Okay? And I had almost 7 hours of sleep. So, okay, so that was good. So just wanted to let you know that this new machine is working and we are getting it adjusted. So now let's just see how I can do when I'm on it for a couple of weeks straight and that kind of thing. So appreciate all your prayers about that situation. Give me a second to set the phone to the timer. The only other problem which you can pray about is that with the higher pressure and what's going on, a little bit of a cough has come back, which is triggered by all of that stuff happening in my sort of heart-lung area. So it's not that I'm under the weather at all. I know it's triggered by the higher pressure and all the things that are going on in that area. So it's not the violent cough that had me, falling down and passing out. This is just a little triggered, thing like what you just heard. Nothing, not a big deal. All right, where are we? Anybody know? Where are we? We're here in the building. Where do you mean? You don't know? We're standing right here in the building. David's in his seat, so it's good. Okay, we're in Yirmiyahu, aren't we? Okay, so waiting for you guys. You guys ready on that side? Marty, we're good? Okay, we're good on that side. Okay, let me get a quick sip of water and we'll get started. All right, Are You Covenanted, part 31. Anybody paying attention? 29. Oh, okay, hold on, let me fix that. No, 29. I just want to make sure you guys are keeping score, okay? All right, so today, I should have a pause so that when Marty edits, it's got that pause and we can start. Here we go. All right, so today we're in Are You Covenanted, part 29. We're continuing in our study of the idea of covenant and how it relates. And of course, we were looking at Proverbs, and we were in chapter 5, where we talked about the connection of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to covenant keeping. And we discovered that in verses 3 through 6 of chapter 5, there was this idea of wormwood that came up. And so we thought it would be a good idea to get a better sense of what that was all about. So we've been dealing with that for a little while here. And we're going to continue looking at the idea of wormwood in Jeremiah 23. Now, in verse 15 is where the verse mentions the word wormwood. When it says, Therefore, thus said Yahweh of hosts, concerning the prophets, see, I am making them eat wormwood, and shall make them drink poisoned water, for defilement has gone out into all the land from the prophets of Jerusalem. Now, last week was a somewhat, gentle discourse about the role of teachers and leaders and their effect on people. And so we're going to continue in our very, sensitive way of dealing with their effect on us. And, we have concern for their feelings and, how that might go across. And so we'll continue now in Jeremiah 23 and in verse 27 is where we finish. We'll go into 28. Now, of course, that's because we see that Yahweh has been very gentle with them himself. Okay? And so, we'll start in verse 28 when he says, The prophet who has a dream, let him relate the dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. What is chaff to wheat? Ooh. So he's comparing that one of them is chaff and one of them is wheat. And so you wonder if that's maybe what Yeshua was talking about when he was dealing with the wheat and the chaff and the separating of the two? Could that be? Because after all, we have a reference to it. Because I know a lot of you, and this is not a judgment on you guys at all, okay? But I know a lot of you have an understanding that almost exclusively comes out of
a New Testament understanding. And so you found, I know, how many of you found it surprising to see that there actually are things that you read in the New Testament, then when you go back to the Old and realize, whoa, it's actually there first. Like this idea of the wheat and the chaff, and you sit there going, that was there first? How could that be there first? I don't understand. And so this is important that we see that. And so, excuse me. And I don't know why I'm blanking them. What chapter in Matthew is the wheat and the chaff? I got them. Okay, Matthew 13. Now, so we're going to look at that real quickly here. It wasn't in my notes, but I think we'll just take a quick side trip over to Matthew 13. Okay, because he is referencing in Matthew 13, I believe, something that also has to do with this. In Matthew 13, he's talking about individuals, and over here in Jeremiah, it's taking it to the leadership. Because guess what people do? The individual tends to be at the pace of the leadership they decide to be under. And by the way, all of you can say, well, I'm not under any leadership. Yes, you are. If anything else is not true, you're under you. So don't tell me you're not under any leadership. Okay, everybody is under some leadership, even if it's self-sovereignty leadership. You still have chosen to be under leadership. So let's not get confused about that. So, we're back in Jeremiah 23. He's been talking about prophets. He's been talking about the teachers. He's been talking about them saying things that Yahweh hadn't said. And speaking of themselves, he talks about them having dreams and sharing those dreams and convincing people about whatever it is that they believe Yahweh's trying to, get them to understand. But these are dreams that are not Yahweh generated. And so we get to verse 28, and he says, the prophet who has a dream, let him relate the dream. And he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. What is the chaff to the wheat? So notice he's saying there's a difference now, because a lot of you get wrapped up in this because it's an emotional thing. I am not picking on you, by the way, if you have dreams. Just be real careful with them. That's all. Because what he's comparing here is the one who has a dream. Now, this is specifically the prophet, not just the individual. He says, the one who has a dream, he's comparing to the one who has my word. He says, the one who has my word, he's comparing to the one who has a dream. Now, I think what we can hopefully relate to that is that if you have his word, you'll understand better what to do with the dream. Because if the dream clashes with the word, we're going to have a problem. Okay? As a matter of fact, we're going to make another side trip. We'll go there first. Aren't you guys excited? Did you get your seatbelts on and have your travel clothes? We're traveling all over the place here. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 13 first. Okay? Where it talks about dreamers of dreams, just real quickly here. Okay, so in Deuteronomy 13, it starts off with, when arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams. This is the beginning of the beware false prophets teaching. He says, and shall give you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder shall come true, of which he has spoken to you. So now we're dealing with people come to me all the time. Well, what should we do with this person? They're saying all these things, and it's happening. It comes true. And I'm always like, so what? Well, there needs to be more. What is the effect? Here's the question. He says here, and they've spoken to you saying, let's go after other mighty ones that you have not known and serve them. Do not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. He's not saying there aren't real prophets or real dreamers of dreams, but don't listen to the one that's utilizing it to either lead you away or convince you to stay in a place that's wrong. Because people will say, how come we don't see all these manifestations of miracles and signs and wonders like the churches see within the Hebrew Roots movement or the Messianic movement or whatever you call this mess that we have? And the answer is because they're getting it to try to convince people not to leave. Abba's allowing you to make a rational, logical decision without being, ooh, ah, and all impressed like a little kid. He wants you to make a decision as an adult. You don't need to be oohed and ahhed. There's already enough oohs and ahs in the book. Unless you don't believe those things happened. Unless you don't believe that he parted the sea or brought the plagues or did all the other miracles that you see everywhere in Scripture. And so we have the oohs and the ahs, which Paul tells us were written as examples for us so that we would know all the things that we don't have to experience personally because we just would know that these things have already happened. So we should already be impressed enough. And so he says, this dreamer of dreams or this prophet, if he's taken, now again, when he says a sign of wonder, it's not like he's doing the sign. He may say, I saw in a dream, this is going to happen. And we compared this to the people who are hyping the latest asteroid going to hit the planet or the blood moon thing or whatever it is. They saw the signs that this star is in Virgo and then it's going to do this and this, and they're trying to interpret Scripture through things they see. The problem is that things they see could be nothing, it could be something. Now, they are seeing it, but whether it means something significant or what it means is what's unclear. Blood moons, guess what? They happened, but nothing else connected to them really significantly happened. Okay, if you did not know that those things happened a few years ago, you would not have any idea that anything significant happened. If you were not aware of them. Most of the planet, by the way, didn't talk about it. Most of the people just went through life not knowing it happened. It's like if you lived in a part of the world that was not computer related, Y2K was never an issue for you. You didn't know that it was a big deal. The year went from 1999 to 2000, and you had no thoughts about it except that, hey, pretty cool, we're going into a new millennium. So that's kind of exciting. But yet we were all hyped on it, weren't we? Those of us that are old enough remember the freak out over that non-event. And it was a non-event. Nothing happened. Okay? So he's telling you, make sure you're sticking to and you're immersed in and you understand the Word, His Word, and not just be all concerned about the dreamer of dreams and these so-called prophets. Because there's plenty of these self-anointed, self-appointed, self-claiming prophets out there. And a lot of them are preaching people will send me stuff and I'm like, okay, this person you just sent me, are they keeping Sabbath? No. Are they keeping Torah? No. Are they covenanted according to Exodus 19? No. Why are you listening to them? But because they've been right. Oh, do you know, is Deuteronomy 13 in your Bible? What do you mean they've been right? So what? Yahweh warned you about that. There are other places where he says, if there's a person who prophesies and it doesn't come true, that's the false prophet. Well, that's the easy version of it. But there are also false prophets where they say it and it does happen. Deuteronomy 13 handles that. And so what do you do when it does happen? Well, it matters what is it being used for. Signs and wonders and miracles are done for what reason? I've taught you guys many times. To strengthen belief. Not belief in Yahweh or Torah, just belief in general. If you see an impressive sign, it will strengthen your belief in whatever is behind or proposing is behind that sign. So it strengthens our belief in something. We look at it as, wow, very powerful evidence of the veracity and the reality of that thing that's behind the sign or wonder. And that's what the churches are using to keep people in. They use signs and wonders to impress and wow everybody. I can get that going to a magic show or the circus. I get all kinds of wow. But hopefully you understand that, especially when it comes to the magic shows, it's a trick. It's not magic, but it's there to make you go, wow. And so that's the purpose of the signs and wonders you see in most of the churches. Get you to say, wow, when you think, I'm in the right place. But that's not what the signs and wonders are for. Okay, it has to be in strengthening our belief in Him. See, when the biggest series of signs and wonders anywhere in the Bible are the Egyptian Exodus. And what was the point of that? To show His superiority over all the pagan gods. In other words, there was a very clear purpose. It wasn't just signs and wonders just to go, wow, ooh, It was to show your gods have no effect and no power over anything real. I'm going to do and you can't stop it because I am the true Elohim. That's what Yahweh was doing. And so in Deuteronomy 13 it says, do not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, is verse 3, for Yahweh your Elohim is testing you. He's trying you to know whether you love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. So He's testing you because you are
drawn to these things. Now, remember, this is connected to the whole idea of covenanted. If you are covenanted, you have to be able to have enough strength of internal fortitude and will to ask the question, that was impressive, but does it matter? Is it significant? What am I supposed to do with it? Don't just be drawn like the fly to the light. Okay? Ooh, pretty, shiny, Don't do that. What you want to make sure to do is ask questions like, okay, that was impressive, but what is the purpose of it? Is it leading me away or towards Yahweh? That's what Deuteronomy 13 instructs us to do. Because he's allowing it to happen to test you, to try you. Go back to the baptism of fire teaching to understand why these trials come up, to see and measure and gauge where are you in your relationship with him and with the body. That's what the trials are for. He wants to get that gauge, not just for himself, because he knows exactly where you are, but he wants you to see and know that he knows where you are. Because sometimes we lie to ourselves and we think we're further along than we are. And then the reality check comes and we realize, I'm not as far along as I thought I was. So it's a reality wake-up call. Let's call it that. Okay, so here we have in Jeremiah 23, he says, look, he says, these things that are happening, it may have to do with this idea of wheat and chaff. And he's comparing the prophet or dreamer of dreams that is false to the one who has my word, who is true. Interesting. So now let's take that. And by the way, the end of Deuteronomy 13, it says, walk after Yahweh, your Elohim, and fear him and guard his commands and obey his voice and serve him and cling to him. That's all. What kind of language? Covenant language. Obey his voice. Serve him. Cling to him. Fear him. That's all like Deuteronomy 10:12. And now, Israel, what does Yahweh expect of you? To what? Fear him. Walk in all his ways. Love him. Serve him. With all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength. Okay. Realize that it says that prophet or dreamer of dreams is put to death. Why? Because he has spoken apostasy against Yahweh your Elohim. Trying to convince, this is like what happened with Aaron and those who made the calf. They, in a state of apostasy, said, this is Yahweh. Isn't that what all of the churches, whether they are pagan or mainstream, do? They try to say all these signs and wonders are because of the Creator. Your Lord, your God did this, and blah, blah, blah. And you've got to use some discernment to say, hold on, time out, let me test this. Does it go up against the word and come out clean? Important that we do that. So now let's go to Matthew 13 where we talk about wheat and chaff. Okay? We talk about wheat and chaff. In verse 24 of Matthew 13, another parable he put before them saying, so it's a parable. In other words, it's something to get you to think about a point. Not so much a literal thing, but a point. And the metaphors being used here are the wheat and the chaff. In the scriptures, it calls it the darnel, and it's for the chaff, okay? So he says, a man sowed good seed in his field, and while men slept, his enemy came and sowed the chaff, we'll call it among the wheat, and went away. And when the blade sprouted and bore fruit, then the chaff also appeared. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to the master, did you not sow good seed in your field? From where does it have the chaff? And he said to him, a man, an enemy, did this. And the servant said to him, do you wish then that we go and gather them up? And he said, no, lest while you gather up the chaff, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of harvest, I shall say to the reapers, first gather the chaff and then bind them up into bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my granary. Okay, so let's pause and break this down a little bit. Now, he of course, is going to explain it to them also, but let me just break this down a little bit. Notice what it says here, very important piece. He said, the rain is like a man who sowed good seed in the field, and while men slept, his enemy came and sowed darnel or chaff among the wheat and went away. So
When the blade sprouted and bore fruit, then the chaff also came. So it's going to happen when good things are happening. Good seed is planted and good fruit is coming. And then what sneaks in among all that is then the chaff. So people might say, oh, well, we got this great congregation, and so clearly the chaff can't get in here. Nonsense. That's when it starts to sprout up, is when you already are bearing good fruit. Follow the process, he says. He says, and when the blade sprouted and bore fruit, then also the chaff appeared as well. So the enemy wants to get in there and say, hold on, we don't like this good fruit planting thing going on. So we're going to mix it and mess it up and taint it so that there will be those in there that will be tempted to go towards chaff and not wheat. Interesting. Now remember what we talked about, the enemy. What's the enemy? He's the one that's going to figure out how to take what's already in you and bring it out to the surface and use it against your relationship with Yahweh. Remember, he's only working with what you have. We'll do a teaching, I guess, separately at some point. I know I say that every time, but it's in so many teachings that you need to remember that the enemy is an opportunist. He does not create or generate something that's not there and put that thought in your head. If you never would have gone in that direction, he doesn't ever have anything to work with to put in your head. So if it's popping in your head, it's because you had that thought in you to bring out. You were capable of going in that direction. That's why there's so many things, I'll say this on this teaching because maybe people haven't heard it before, that's why there's so many things that you see others struggle with, and you look at them like, I don't get it. Why do you struggle with that? You know why? It's in them and it's not in you. But guess what? You can reverse that. There's things they look at you that you struggle with and look at you the same way. Why do you struggle with that? Because they don't have any of that in them, but you do. Because some of you see somebody who's a drug addict or an alcoholic and you don't get it. That's great. I'm glad you don't get it. I don't wish you ever would. But that's because that was never a problem for you. But maybe you're a gambler, or maybe you're an anger-addicted person, or maybe you're a shopaholic. Maybe you've got this 15 other million things you could be. Maybe you're a philanderer, sex-addicted person. Whatever it is, you've got yours, they've got theirs. And so the enemy's just to bring that out. You've got it, he's going to bring it out. That's what you see happening in Job. Yahweh says, what do you think of Job? And the enemy basically says, there's nothing to work with. But the enemy spins it and goes, but that's only because you give him everything. Let's see if you took it all away. The enemy's convinced that we can't possibly be righteous, it's just in ourselves. Only because you're giving him all this stuff. Well, Job proved it wrong. He took away all the stuff and Job still stood his ground. Because he was a tzaddik, he was a righteous one. So here we have in the parable of the wheat and the chaff, very important, he says, let them both grow together until. Now, some of you think, well, he says until the harvest is the harvest. Well, wait, he still says, and the reapers are going to do the reaping. And that is not you. He's not using us to do the reaping. Okay? He says in his explanation of this, in verse 36, the tall ones come to him and says, explain to us the parable of the chaff of the field. And answering, he said, he who is sowing the good seed is the son of Adam. So Yeshua is planting a good seed, and the field is the world. And the good seed, these are the sons of the rain, those who are covenanted, but the chaff are the sons of the wicked one. They're still growing together, looking covenanted, sounding covenanted, acting covenanted to some degree, growing up together. So it's not like it's easy for you to point the finger at the chaff. They're in this room. Some are in here. Some are, I don't know how many, and I never spend time trying to figure out who. And you shouldn't either. Work on the plank in your own eye type of thing, okay? And so let's make sure that that's going on. But he says, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the messengers. You are not the messengers. The reapers are the angels or messengers sent to do the reaping. And he says they are the ones who are going to have the discernment to know which is which, something you will not have. And it says that then the darnel or the chaff is gathered and burned in fire, so it shall be at the end of the age. Now, I want you to think of if you've not harvested or you've not watched any movies or any place we've seen it harvesting, chaff is not something that takes a long time to burn. Okay, pretty much like whoosh. All right? Because when they're separating it when it's dry. A lot of ways they separate is they toss it in the air so the chaff can blow away and the kernels can fall. So it's very dry stuff. So let's remember this for our end time understanding of what happens when you die. Here is a much more clear understanding that it will be gathered and burned. Which, by the way, matches very nicely in John 15, which is also not in my notes. I may not even use notes today, apparently. Okay, when he talks about every branch in me that doesn't bear fruit, guess what happens to it in verse 6? If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up. Dry wood burns quickly, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. Not that they spend time burning forever. They burn really quickly. That's why we use that kind of stuff as kindling. It's stuff to actually start enough of a fire to light the stuff that burns slowly. The chaff burns very quickly. All right. So that's in, I have to put that on here too. Let's get more stuff in here. What did I say? John 15:6, right? Okay. So here we are back in Matthew 13. He's explaining this. He says, so this is what's going to happen and be done at the end of the age and by the messengers. So now let's go back and see what's going on here in Jeremiah. Jeremiah 23. So hopefully this will make more sense as we're reading what was going on in Jeremiah 23. And what you'll find is that often the things that Yeshua is saying, or Paul, or John, or Peter, etc., James, they're taking stuff that they have, hopefully the Jewish community that they're working with should have already known, and showing how it applies and what it was talking about in the real world that they lived in at that time. So Yeshua is using this wheat and chaff thing because it relates exactly to something that Jeremiah said. So we're back in Jeremiah, and it says here, the prophet who has a dream, verse 28, let him relate the dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. So what does truth mean? Speak it in the light, speak it in the way, speak it in Yeshua, speak it in the Torah. He's going to speak my word in truth. What is chaff to the wheat, declares Yahweh? Is not my word like a fire, declares Yahweh, and like a hammer that shatters a rock? Okay, for all those who think I teach too strong, there it is. That's my permission to be a hammer. Because all I'm doing is reading his word. He says, but my word is like a fire. It's going to then burn up the chaff. So let's understand, he's saying that these dreamers, be aware that some of them may actually be chaff. You need to do what? Compare what they're telling you to the word. Oh, but they use the word to back up their dreams. Sure they do. You've heard people make the most incredible claims that they claim to back up with the word. You can make the word say anything you want. Go listen to anybody teaching tomorrow, and they will be doing that. You know, because you were there for how many years? And they made that word say whatever they wanted it to say. But you need to be comparing it to the word in truth, through the Torah, through Yeshua. Do you understand what I'm saying? The difference. Because they're not doing it in truth. They're filtering it through delusion, confusion, lies they've been told and inherited. I'm not saying it's their fault. This is what they have to work with. Okay? He says, but is not my word like a fire? So you see how this verse is here connects directly to Matthew 13? And it also connects to Deuteronomy 13. Interesting. 13 and 13. I don't know. It just worked out that way. Or did it? All right. Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahweh, not just any prophets, the prophets who steal my words, everyone from his neighbor. So we have prophets out there that are taking his word, and they're doing like we see in Ezekiel 22 when it says that thus, they claim, thus said Yahweh when Yahweh hadn't said. All right? And that's a real big deal to him. He says, therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahweh, who steal my words, everyone from his neighbor. See, I am against the prophets, wow, he said it twice, declares Yahweh, who use their tongues and say he declares when he hadn't said. See, I'm against those who prophesy false dreams. 3 verses in a row, I am against. You think that ought to wake you up a little bit? Be very, very afraid and concerned and cautious about stepping up and saying, Yahweh told me to tell you, individually or to a large group. And I don't think you probably have ever heard me say that other than to say, Yahweh told me to read you this, okay? All I do is read you his word. I don't come here saying, I had a dream and Yahweh told me to tell you this. Now, one time he kept me up all night to tell you, I need to talk to you about decisions being important. But that's not a thing like an end-time event going to happen or to do the thing. This is clearly in his word. That you needed to understand that making decisions is why you're here. But you don't get that, before I came here to do this show today, the Lord told me to tell you. Are they quoting verses ever when they do that? No. Do they have Bibles in their hands? Well, maybe they just want to do this with them. They're swinging them around, It's a prop. I am against those who prophesy false dreams. Bear in mind that the person prophesying a false dream is probably not making up the dream. They had a dream. I believe that. It's very likely in most cases that they actually have a dream. But it's false when it means it didn't come from him. Do you understand the difference? So we're not saying that people are just making stuff up. They didn't just come here and say, I had a dream when they didn't. They probably did. But he calls them false, meaning they're not coming from him, but they're claiming it's coming from him. And that's what makes them false. He says, and they relate them and lead my people astray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. Because now people start to be impressed with that person because they know something that we don't know. They've got an inside track. They got insight. They got an anointing and a gift and a talent. And now you're impressed with them and you tend to want to follow them. And that's where you're going to end up in a ditch. He's warning you. He says, because they relate these dreams to lead my people, what? Deuteronomy 13, away from Torah and Yahweh and truth. Oh, but those dreams brought me closer to God. Which God? Because remember, they claimed the calf was Yahweh, but it wasn't. They go to Yeshua, Lord, Lord, and he said, nope, you are barking up the wrong tree. You thought you knew me, but I didn't have that relationship with you. Just remember this. He said, they lead my people astray, because that is the purpose. So look at the dreams, look at where they're going, because I love it. Every year, somebody's, on a regular basis, people are sending me links to video. Oh, you got to watch this. And it's almost always some mainstream person. And they want me to ask, they want me to comment on or address the validity or lack of what. I'm like, why are you even watching it? Why are you sourcing uncovenanted people as sources? Why are you using them as a source of anything? They are not covenanted. Oh, but there is still a huge part of the body that believes those in the churches are covenanted. And I get a lot of, I'm going to get hate mail from all the church people. They are blinded. They are confused. They are lied to. It's not their fault. But according to what makes you covenanted, which is the Torah contract, the Yahweh speaks you do, they are not covenanted. I don't know how you get past that. Because covenant is a very specific, remember we talked about the definition of covenant at its most basic level, is a covenant is an oath-bound relationship between two or more parties. The Creator uses covenants to establish a relationship between him and his people, and when it's between mankind and him, it also includes an expectation of, actually a covenant always has an expectation of doing something or not doing something specified. And so they're not in the Exodus 19 covenant. Oh no, well they'll tell you they're not. They're a new covenant. Well, that's not his covenant. And that's where the confusion is. They've been what? Lied to by all the dreamers of dreams and false prophets that the Old Testament was done away with, the law was done away with, it's awful and horrible, it's a burden even your forefathers couldn't bear, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not picking on the people that are buying into it. What else can they possibly know? Just like you when you were there. Some of you, it saved your life to find that mess. Because you had lifestyles and things you were doing that at least that much of it was fixable through that partial truth. So I don't want to attack the journey that you went through that to get here. But just remember that it was a place you had to pass through, not stop. And all of the other things that we're talking about were intended to lock you in, to keep you there. And we have lost people who were here, I don't mean necessarily just in this congregation, but who have come out of churches into Torah observance, who go back because they are longing for and upset that they no longer have the wonders and the signs and all of the show. They miss the show. I mean, I could do a handstand. Would that help? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, or a backflip, or, I got a pretty good coin trick. I might even have a coin. A silver one, that is. Okay? But what is the point? The point has to do with what he says here. He says, look, they do these things, these false dreams, and relate them, and it leads my people astray. That's Deuteronomy 13's point. It leads them away from covenant. And by their reckless boasting, I mean, they actually are boasting and excited about how much better their life is to be free from the law, to be free from all of these bounds. Unbelievable stuff. And you think I'm making it up? You go look up some of these guys on the YouTube who are telling you not only has the law been done away with, includes the 10 Commandments. And that there's no more sin unless you try, that the problem is you trying to keep the law. That's what they're telling you is the problem with sin, because without sin, without the law, there is no sin. And so I listened to a guy actually make that argument that you're doing the law is the problem. So stop doing the law, that's the problem. I'm not making this stuff up. Go look up Creflo Dollar talking about this stuff. I'm going to call him out. Okay? He literally is telling people, you've had it on your Facebook pages, probably you've seen these videos, that the law is the problem and your attempts to keep it. That's Jeremiah 23:32 right there. It is boasting. It is reckless. It is leading people astray. And should be called out. What else are you supposed to do? But by the way, if you notice, Yahweh is calling out which level of group? Is he calling out the people or the teachers? He's calling out the teachers. Because the people are supposed to find teachers. But he gives you a little bit of the tools to say, but you be careful what teachers you find. Are they leading you towards or away from truth, Torah, Yeshua, the light, the way, etc., life, the word? That's your job. He says that these people are doing this reckless boasting. He says, but I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them, and they do not profit this people at all, declares Yahweh. Look, I'm not a big fan necessarily, but anybody remember seeing the movie Oh God with George Burns? Okay, there was a scene where this very charismatic evangelist who boasted and was this big deal guy, and George Burns told John Denver, the character in the movie that was supposed to be speaking with God, he said, tell him I said to shut up. He said, and did God have a message for me? He's all business. And did he have a message for me? He said, yeah, he told you to shut up. Because he didn't send him. That's such a great scene. Now, there's other stuff that's problematic with the movie, etc. I get that, okay? And I saw that movie before I was covenanted. I was a little kid and when it first came out. But that scene never, left my memory of him just telling that guy, stop blustering, you big blowhard, and shut up. That was pretty, right? Remember that? And here he's saying, I did not send them, nor have I commanded them. They're making this stuff up, or it's coming from a wrong source. and they do not profit this people at all. It may look like it does. There may be physical evidence that it seems like it does, but it doesn't. Don't be misled by that appearance. And when these people or the prophet or the priest ask you, saying, what is this message of Yahweh? Then you should say to them, what message? I shall forsake you, declares Yahweh. As for the prophet and the priest and the people who say, the message of Yahweh, I shall punish that man and his house. So in other words, he's still talking about the people who say, thus said Yahweh, when Yahweh had not said. So the people are saying, to the false prophet, what message? And Yahweh says, I shall forsake you. Don't go chasing after those guys. And so when you guys are all spreading around and passing around all these teachers and all their fear-mongering and prophetic, quote-unquote, things, let's not forget, prophecy is not what you were told in church. Prophecy is the speaking of the word, this word, not some prophetic word that you got in a dream, this word with authority. For those of you who are listening, I'm holding up my scriptures. Preaching the biblical scriptural word with authority. That's prophecy. Does it include occasionally some end-time stuff? Yes. But that stuff is the stuff that's already written. We're not making up new stuff. The canon has been established. We're not adding more stuff to it. We do not add, do not take away. Let's continue. So he's saying here, look, when they go, oh, the people say the message of Yahweh, I'm going to punish the man and his house. Don't get involved with that. He says the prophet or priest and the people who say. He said, this is what one says to his neighbor and each one to his brother. What has Yahweh answered and what has Yahweh spoken? In verse 36, but the message of Yahweh you no longer remember. For every man's message is his own word. Oh. For you have changed the words of the living Elohim, Yahweh of hosts, our Elohim. Most of you probably don't use an NIV. And the reason you don't, I'm guessing, is because you have discovered it to be not quite the inspired version. In other words, there have been changes made to the word that you have recognized were problematic. In other words, people have done exactly this. They have altered the word. And so a lot of you do not use that. By the way, all you King James only people, that book has a problem too. The word is altered in it also. Okay? Don't tell me it was good enough for Paul, it's good enough for me. I've heard that. I've even had it was good enough for Yeshua, it's good enough for me. Book wasn't written for a long time afterwards by a guy named King James, who authorized, well, he didn't write it, but he authorized the publishing and the writing of it. So let's understand that this is going on today. There are today people who are still going after, because every man's message is his own word. Every man's message, oh, I'm sorry. You mean the people that might be saying, but the Ruach teaches me directly, I don't need a teacher? Everyone's message is his own word. If the Ruach is teaching everyone, why are we not all on the same page? Is the Ruach confused? Does anybody for a second think the Ruach HaKodesh is confused? We're confused, though. So for all those people out there claiming they're taught directly by the Ruach, two things that I want to make a point with. One is, the Ruach isn't confused, so therefore we can not all be on 75 different pages claiming that. And the second is, how dare you ask anybody anything if that's true? You hypocrites. For those listening, I made a big smile. Okay? And that's unbelievable. I watched it was 2 hours plus video of people saying how we don't need teachers and we're all led by the Ruach and we don't need anything like that, and spent the last hour and a half answering everybody's questions. Why wasn't the answer to every question, go home and pray and the Ruach will teach you? Come on, let's stop being so hypocritical in all of this. The reason you say the Ruach teaches you is because you don't want to submit to an authority. That is your out. That is your excuse. That frees you up to pretty much do whatever you want. Because after all, you are the sole interpreter of what the Ruach is telling you.
You're uncovered. Or uncovenanted, really, because in covenant, you're covered. The covenant brings structure into place. And so let's understand that he says here, this is what's going on in verse 30, where was I? Verse 36. But the message of Yahweh you no longer remember because you're so busy, everyone, with his own message and his own word. This message, the message of Yahweh, as I said, okay, I skipped a verse. His own word, for you have changed the words of the living Elohim. Let me explain how this also looks. Some of you are in groups, not here, but I'm talking to the live streamers and those who are watching this on YouTube, whatever. Some of you are in groups locally where, oh no, we don't like to have just one person in front of the room. So we all sit in a circle and we read the Torah portion and then we discuss it. Yeah, and how often do you all just agree on everybody's thoughts and interpretations of what you're discussing? And really, if you're doing this year after year after year, how much revelation and growth are you really getting? Because I've been to those groups as a guest speaker, and I've noticed that there's a lot of basic stuff they don't know. You know how I know that? Because when we start having a Q&A where they ask questions, I have to interrupt at some point and say, this is why you need a teacher, because you should know this stuff, but because you don't have a teacher, you don't know these things that you should know. Now, I start off first by telling them, which is almost always true, actually it's always true, how awesome, I mean, these are great people. These are quality people, loving people, friendly people, warm. You would fall in love with these people like I did. But I looked at them, I said, look, if you don't mind, I don't want to offend anybody, but I know your structure here is a sort of a circle of elders, whatever, there is no real leader, blah, blah, blah. I said, but you've been doing this for 15 years, and you're still sitting in first grade. How do I know? Because of the questions you're asking me. And they're not asking me my opinion on it. They're asking me, like you can tell by the way the wording of the questions, that they don't know. They're not just saying, like, well, what's your take on this? They're saying, well, how do we do this, or what's that, or what, you know. They're asking questions they should know. But without a teacher, they don't know. I, as your teacher, have put forth how many hundred videos? I know we have more than 1,000 in YouTube, but a lot of them are pieces of videos that we already did. But actual teachings from scratch, from start to finish in 7 years, we've put together almost 400 teachings. 50-something a year, whatever that is. All right, so about 400 teachings, all designed so that you would have the education and have the answers to those questions. Which is why I can almost always answer a question with, here's the teaching that covers that. And that's a benefit to having a teacher. Now, you may not think I'm a good teacher. You may not think I'm the right teacher. You may think I'm a false teacher. That's all for you to figure out. But as a teacher, you need to find a teacher who's going to give you all of that instruction in the basics. But a lot of people don't want to learn the basics. I want the fun, frilly, exciting end time stuff. How many teachings have you heard me do on end times? Almost none. I did the Millennium and Kingdom just to explain the basic concept of how things are going to play out. That there's the Millennium, and there's the Kingdom. I didn't get into all the details of all the events that lead between them and all the other stuff like that, just to understand that there's 3 different time frames. Okay? There's the 1,000 years, and then there's the forever that comes after. But you don't get the Matthew 24, Daniel 9, Revelation, blah, 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 all kind of played out. Not for me. Why? Because it's not useful to you. What are you going to do with it anyway? I'm not against the people doing it. I'm glad somebody's doing it. As a matter of fact, I would love to dig into it and have fun with it. But I'm not mandated in my mandate what he called me to do that. My mandate is to teach them to do what they need to do in the right heart and the right way so that they are pleasing in my sight. The other stuff is going to happen whether they know it or not or understand it or not. It's just going to happen anyway. But knowing it's going to happen and how it's going to happen and everything else isn't going to help you if you're not doing the transformational process of becoming Yeshua-like. But these other teachers, a lot of them, he says, they're doing all these things and it does not profit the people at all. Because I've had people tell me, oh, you got to watch this wonderful teaching. And I listen to it going, and what are you going to do with what that teaching teaches you? How is that going to transform you into him? Oh, but now I understand what's coming. Okay, so maybe it'll motivate you to transform. And that's not bad, I guess,
assuming the person's guess and speculation and everything else is right, because the book really doesn't come clearly out and tell us what's going to happen. Not in the details. It tells us in a big picture sort of sense. And that's all I ever covered, which is the big picture. There's now, the life that you're living. There's a millennium, and there's a kingdom. Okay, there's a forever, what I call it the kingdom. Okay, a period of time that it's all finished. No, the Revelation 21 and forward. Okay? And so, this is where we get all bogged down and confused because we're not looking for this covenantal relationship. Understanding what's coming does not help you be more covenanted. It may motivate you to get covenanted, I get that. And you can get that from a simplicity of you are living a life now, Messiah is going to come, he will reign and rule for 1,000 years, there will be a judgment, and based on your works, you will receive a reward of some sort. There you go, that's my whole end time message. So you need to figure out that piece that is your part in it is, what do I need to do to hear the words, well done, good and trustworthy servant? What do I need to do Yeshua says, you need to be looking at, what do I need to do to understand what is well-pleasing in the sight of the Father? How do I please Him? Oh, the Christianity tells you don't have to please Him because you're going to have Yeshua's pleasing Him imputed to you, so because He's happy with Yeshua, He's happy with you. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds? I mean, that's just dumb. Which proves that the people listening and believing it are blinded and inheriting lies and in a delusion. It's not their fault. But now you can come out of it and realize that that's just dumb. That doesn't make any sense. Because then why wouldn't the kingdom be now? Or 2,000 years ago? Why would He make us wait through all of this nonsense if that was all it took? I believe in Yeshua. All these people believe in Yeshua, fine. He has to be pleasing to the Father, not us, so we get to live forever. That's just dumb. I don't know what else to call it. It's just plain stupid. Now, again, I'm not calling Christians stupid. People are going to say that. They are in a place where He has not opened their eyes, or their understanding, their ears, etc. But for you, with eyes that are open, you should recognize it's just stupid. And don't let that temptation to be drawn back into it and go, I wish I hadn't had the red pill, I ate the blue pill, or whatever. All right? He opened your eyes, be happy. Rejoice. Hallelujah. And work with that. But understand there are those out there trying to pull you back into the other side of this mess. Back into the confusion. Because you know what? That life, if it were true, certainly sounds a lot easier. Hey, I don't have to do anything. He did it all for me. And if anything goes bad, it's the devil's fault anyway. So I got off the hook, no problem. I got no responsibilities, no issues. I'm good. Eternal security. He's watching you, and that's why the decision-making teaching is so important. He wants to see the choices you make. And those choices are what make the difference. That's why Deuteronomy 8:2 is the test. He wants to see if you've been humbled. That's when you decide that you're not so smart and He's smarter. And you're ready to submit to Him. Have you been humbled, and is it in your heart to submit to the covenant? That's really the way it's worded. It's not so much is it in your heart to keep the Torah or not. Keeping the Torah is the covenanted contract. So He wants to know, are you covenanted? Are you committed to that covenant? I got to finish chapter 23. Before today ends, I'm going to get this done. So he says here, this is what you to say, verse 37. This is what you say to the prophet. What has Yahweh answered you, and what has Yahweh spoken? But since you say the message of Yahweh, in other words, Yahweh said, therefore thus said Yahweh, because you say this word, the message of Yahweh, and I have sent to you saying, do not say that message of Yahweh. Therefore see, I shall utterly forget you. Whoa. And cast you out and away from my presence, along with the city that I gave you and your fathers. And I shall put an everlasting reproach on you and an everlasting shame that is not forgotten. Now, this is not talking about burning in hell. This is saying that if you choose this path, that while you are going to be known by others Because remember, shame is something that others look at you and feel about you. They look at you and there's shame on you. And people look at you. Do you understand that's the reason why they crucified people? Because that was the highest level of shaming somebody. To take off their clothes, stick them up on a stake, nail them to it in public, and watch them suffocate and suffer out there in public. That was supposed to be the most public shaming that you could do then. So he's saying here, because you insist on saying Yahweh said when Yahweh hadn't said. He said, Yahweh is going to cast you. He says, I shall utterly forget you and cast you away from my presence, along with the city that I gave to you and your fathers, and I shall put an everlasting reproach on you. So the everlasting reproach on you means as long as you last, you'll have a reproach. Doesn't mean that you'll last forever and be reproached. He's merciful too. So he's not going to let you be tortured and suffer forever in a reproachful state. But as long as you live, people will know that you had brought shame on yourself. Wasn't that the point when he brought Babylon in to take them away? Wasn't that the point when he told Moses, I'm going to just wipe them out? And Moses said, but then that will be shameful because the people will know these are your people. And you just brought them out here to destroy them? See, but if you're not destroyed, if they're alive and just scattered, people will say, oh, your God punished you. What did you do to bring that on? How many times, do you remember this as a parent or a child? You've seen it, where you've seen a kid off in a corner sitting by themselves, and maybe as a kid or a parent you wonder, I wonder what they did. And maybe a kid might actually walk up and say, oh, hey, are you being punished? Or can you? And they go, well, no, I'm stuck here. I can't go. And the kid goes, oh, what did you do? Because they're in a visible place of shaming. And so that's the reproach that's being talked about here. So hopefully we're starting to get a sense from going through this chapter of just how critical it is to Yahweh that those who are going to be in a place of influence, authority, teaching, prophesying, that you better take that serious. Now bear in mind, there's a trap that you have to be aware of. You may be very well-meaning and doing it the best you can, and be those guys that say, Lord, Lord. They thought they were doing it right. So that's where you need to be very careful. You should have accountability. You should be part of a bigger group and have accountability partners. Oh yeah, it's true, I'm at the top of this thing, whatever this is. But I have accountability to others in the group, as well as other teachers that I'm friends with that said, hey, if you ever see me walking off in a left or right direction, we give each other permission to grab each other by the back of the neck of the shirt and say, excuse me, hold on, time out, where are you going? What are you teaching? You see, a lot of the problem is you get these guys to get out there, and they're out there by themselves on the top of the mountain without anything. I'm assuring you, I'm not there. I'm not at that place. We have meetings every month to help prevent that. We have people locally here to help prevent that. I have personal other friends to help prevent that, who are co-workers, so to speak. You understand what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean mistakes won't be made, but that's what you need. You watch some of these leaders that have been out there, almost every one of them is toppled because they've been out on that limb by themselves, uncovered, unaccountable to anybody. But there are people that accuse me, well, Rabbi's not accountable to anybody. You don't know what you're talking about. Come to a leader meeting and see. Talk to Rabbi Tom and see. All right? I give you other people too if you need reference. So I need to give you my reference list, letters of reference type of thing. Do you understand this is where we start getting absurd? But look what's going on here in chapter 23 of Jeremiah. Yahweh is not playing games. He is not beating around the bush. He is not, sugarcoating anything. He is right in their face with his hammer going, you got to knock this off. And just stop. Do not do this. Very important that we understand that. Give me 1 second. I think I may. So in that context, let's take that context and bring it to Ezekiel 22. I know I've quoted that already a few times, but I like Ezekiel 22. I like reading it, so we're just going to read it because I like it. Okay. Ezekiel 22. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to claim something here that doesn't go against everything I said. If there's a possibility of the Ruach performing right now, it's what you see me doing. It's the Ruach telling me, oh yeah, don't forget about John 15, or Deuteronomy 13, or Matthew 13, or Ezekiel 22. The Ruach stirs to remembrance and ties things together. I'm not saying that's exactly what's happening here, but that's where the possibility would be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm working through this process, and I go, look, and it's not anywhere in my notes, which means I hadn't thought of it before, and so something stirred it to go to Matthew 13, and then Deuteronomy 13, and John 15, etc. So I'm not saying the Ruach is absolutely doing this, but that's where the possibility of seeing what it would look like. Does that make sense? So that's what it looks like if it's happening. When you're doing stuff and then it inspires and brings to remembrance, but you have to put it in. The only reason I can go to all these places is because I know where they are, because I go there a lot. And then the Ruach says, wait a minute, that's connected. You're reading the word wheat and chaff. So your brain should go, I know somewhere there's something about wheat and chaff. You should know where it is. And the Ruach helps to bring you there. Then it talks about dreamers of dreams, Deuteronomy 13. It talks about burning the chaff, John 15. Don't be impressed with what I'm doing. You study it enough, you pay attention enough, you put it in there, you submit, the Ruach can bring it out for you too. Okay. And by the way, don't think that my memory works that good with everything. I remember this stuff. I won't remember that I told you I was supposed to meet with you tomorrow or some other thing if it's not written down, okay? So trust me, everything else I have zero memory for. All right? If you've worked with me, you can vouch for that. See, that we can vouch for that. All right? And that's why I tell people, don't think that you told me and I'm going to remember. You're going to have to remind me. You're going to have to text me or whatever it is, because I'm not going to remember. This is what he has all my memory tied up in. Okay? This is what it is. Now, Ezekiel 22, verse 25. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in her midst. Like a roaring lion tearing the prey, they have devoured life. They have taken wealth and precious matters. They have made many widows in her midst. Doesn't it sound like Ezekiel's talking about the mainstream right now? And this is how many thousand years ago? It's over 1,000 years ago. And Ezekiel's like, oh, Her priests have done violence to my teaching, very much like what Jeremiah is talking about. They profane my set-apart matters. They have not distinguished between the set-apart and the profane, the kadosh and the unclean. Okay, you got the tahor and the tameh. Tahor is the clean, the tameh is the unclean. He says, nor have they made known the difference between the unclean and the clean. The tamor, there it is, the tameh and the tahor. And they've hidden their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I profaned in their midst. Now, when he says I profaned in their midst, he's not saying that they are actively profaning me. Oh, Yahweh's a blah, 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 blah. No, by not doing these things, that is profaning him. Because they're making it sound like, and they're actually probably actively saying, that he's okay with this. That doesn't matter that this is separated or this is unclean or clean. You don't need to deal with that. It's been done away with. It doesn't matter anymore. That's profaning his stuff. Her leaders in her midst are like wolves tearing the prey to shed blood, to destroy lives and get greedy gain. See, almost all of these are doing it to gain something, and I promise you, almost all the people out there, individuals who are out there who are misleading people, they want to gain something. Don't confuse this with money. They want to gain self-esteem maybe. They want to feel good about themselves, like I am important. They maybe want to gain followers. They maybe want to gain power or authority. They want to gain money. There are so many different things they could want to gain. Some of them just don't like being isolated on their own. So if you agree with me, I don't feel so isolated. So that's what I gain. And so that's why they come into congregations and they find people they can talk to try to gain them over to their side. Because they're going to feel better not being by themselves on that position. So don't always think about greedy gain as being money. It's something that they want that will benefit them, and that's the motivator. I want to feel smart and special, so I've got this fringe, unique, new doctrinal understanding crack, as I call it. And people are addicted to it. And the more extreme and the more out there, the more they love it. Why? Because the more they have some unique knowledge, this is a Gnostic mindset. I've got special, unique, magical knowledge that nobody else has, and you can come to me and I'll share it with you. As it makes them feel valued. Or so I'm not negatively attacking the thing that's driving them. They're just finding it in a wrong way. You don't need that to feel valued or important or significant. But some people feel that. And so they do these things. Okay? He says, and her prophets, those are the ones speaking and claiming the word of Yahweh with authority, have coated them with whitewash, seeing a false vision, false meaning it just didn't come from Yahweh, and divining a lie for them. In other words, they believe that this is the truth and it's actually a lie, saying, thus said the Master Yahweh, when Yahweh had not said, had not spoken. This is the problem. And some of you left churches, you left because the preacher was preaching and you're looking at the word and it didn't say what they said it said. Right? Okay? The people of the land have practiced oppression and committed robbery and have wronged the poor and the needy, and they oppressed the stranger without right ruling. He said, I sought for a man among them who would make a wall. Oh, look, it's Trump being mentioned here. I sought for a man among them who would make a wall and stand in the breach before me on behalf of the land that I should not destroy, but I couldn't find one. He's looking for somebody to stand up and say, this nonsense stops here. Who can that bring to image for you that decided to do something like that? Name somebody. No, somebody in Scripture. Thank you for pointing at me, but no. Okay? Although I am trying to do that. Who? Nehemiah. How about Pinchas? Okay? The nonsense was going on and nobody was stopping it, not even those older than him in his family whose job it was to do it. And he took that spear up and said, this is ending right here. And threw that spear. He says, look, I sought for a man among you to make a, in other words, make a wall saying this doesn't go further than this. This stops here. And stand in that breach. But the idea of standing in a breach means there has to be a breach. Something. What does a breach mean? Something has broken and stuff is flowing through that should not come through. Don't you see that happening everywhere? With those who are mishandling and manhandling the word? He said, I sought after. He said, but I couldn't find one. He said, therefore I have poured out my displeasure on them, and I have consumed them with my fire of my wrath, and I put their way on their own head, declares the Master Yahweh. That's kind of going back to the wormwood thing. He's like, fine, you want to go do it your way and everything else? Well, then you're going to have to eat the fruit of that. It's going to be wormwood and bitterness. I'm going to deal with bitterness after we finish with wormwood, because I got a few things I want to say about that. Okay? So let's understand as we're going through this. Let me just put Ezekiel 22, 25 to 31. Keep adding more stuff in here. All right? As we're going through it, that this is still dealing with that old idea of wormwood. And it comes from when you choose to go out and do your thing your way and not his way, and especially if you claim that it's his way when it's not, that's when you're bringing on this wormwood thing and this bitterness thing. And that's where the warning comes in Proverbs, when it warns you, this woman whose lips are like honey, and she's going to lead you down that direction. Maybe we just need to reset that real quickly. Go to Proverbs 5, just for a real quick second here, so we know why we're even talking about wormwood. Okay, in Proverbs 5, the lips of the strange woman drip with honey, verse 3, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but in the end she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, and her steps lay hold of the grave. She does not consider the path of life. Her ways are unstable. We're going to deal with the unstable thing too, and you do not know it. So we got a lot of stuff we're dealing with still here, and we're only in part 29. All right? But we're going to explain the bitterness problem. We're going to explain the unstable issue as Scripture explains it. That's going to be my explanation. We're going to let Scripture explain what these things mean. And so that's why, like for example, when Yeshua was talking to Nicodemus, I showed you where in the prophets he should have known what Yeshua was talking about. Because Yeshua said to him, are you a teacher and an elder of Israel and you don't know these things? Well, if he should have known it, we should be able to find why he should have known it, right? And so I did that little piece. You could find it, what do I call it? Like picking on Nicodemus. Okay, it's a little in focus. But see, we are not trained and educated because we don't have the teachers to train us and educate us, so we don't know where these things are. Because you didn't hear this in Sunday church. You probably didn't hear this in the Messianic or in the Torah groups either. And I'm not saying that makes me so smart and everything else. I'm just doing the best I can with what I have. And I wish there were guys out there I could sit under. I wish there was more people doing this and I could take a break. Believe me. But that's what you should be praying for. That, it's like Moses when he said, I wish everybody were prophesying. When Joshua was all upset, because 70 of them. My gosh, would I be happy there were 70 out there doing this. That would be awesome. I don't know if there's 70 out there doing this. I don't know of any at the moment that I look at that are actually teaching how to live this life, Torah covenanted perfectly, not perfectly, but the best way they can, the way this word actually says it, without it being a Baptist or a Pentecostal or a Lutheran or a Methodist or a Catholic spin on it. Because they have not yet learned to unlearn everything they need to unlearn. So it's still being filtered. And it's messing up their understandings. And they can't see straight because they're looking through a filter. Okay? All right, we're going to end it here. Father, we come before you, and we want to just pause to recognize you as our authority, as having full sovereignty, and we desire with all of our hearts to have that relationship with you that you call covenant. We want a covenant with you, the covenant of Exodus 19, the covenant of Jeremiah 31, the covenant that Yeshua talks about as we go forward into the kingdom, where we submit to your authority fully and do what comes out of your mouth. We obey your voice. So, Father, we don't want to have wormwood and bitterness. We don't want to be misled by false teachers. Help us through the Ruach to have discernment to understand what is right and what is wrong and what is truth. We can't be identifying the wheat and chaff, but at least we could identify the teaching that we should probably go towards or away from. Because hopefully even some of those that are teaching wrong are not actually chaff. They're just in the process of learning, and they'll come around. We do not want to judge them, but we want to use judgment. So, Father, we look to you to guide us and lead us to teachers and to places of structure where we can do things the way you have designed them to be done. So we thank you for your word and your truth and come before you now in the authority of Yeshua our Messiah, asking, seeking, and knocking. Amen. 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 Okay, we got Jeremiah 23 finished at least. This is a big blessing to me because you know what? When I first started teaching, I had the misfortune, I guess, of assuming that there was a right way to do this structure-wise. In other words, I thought you had to fit it all into 1 hour, one teaching, or I thought that it had to be all in your notes or whatever it had to be. And I love the freedom to just go where it goes. And I hope that it's blessing you as well. Okay? And so I just stop wherever he lets me stop. I look at the clock, and that's where we stop, and that's great. I think that's really good. And I find that very freeing in terms of allowing it to really be as thorough as he wants it to go and then move on when he's ready. And so that's really great. I'm excited about that. Okay. This is the part that we call the afterburn. And so you have comments or questions, you're welcome to go ahead and raise your hand. Austin's going to come up and grab the mic. If you grab the one on the right, that's the one I think they normally turn on for that. Okay? And so if you have comments or questions here, raise your hand. If you're on live stream, we've got Nate and Kurt manning the live stream, and they will share your questions over the mic when the mic gets to them. Please keep your comments and questions to, if you can, today's teaching, if not to at least the covenant idea that we're talking about for the last 29 teachings. Okay? So we're already over half a year in this thing. Okay? 29 parts, that's
over half a year already. Okay, so that's wow. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, so I think we'll probably get in another 20-something parts, and we'll get this thing really fleshed out, because we're still in Proverbs 5, really, even though we're jumping around, but we're still really in Proverbs 5. And we've got a lot more to deal with in Proverbs 5. So we're going to begin and start with Michelle.
Okay, Jeremiah 23:34, when he talks about the false prophets, priests, teachers, and whatnot. And he says he'll punish that man and his house. Who is his house? Is that just like literally his house family, or is that his congregation or followers?
What verse are you in?
34.
Oh, 34. As the prophet, the priest, and the people who say the message, I shall punish that man and his house. Okay, so he's trying to let you know that it's not just on you, but the punishment is also going to go on those that you had a covering over, that you had authority over. So that could mean family. That could mean extended family or congregation. So that's still, he doesn't make it that clear, but I'm thinking it could be those that you were responsible for. All right, are going to suffer. He's warning them. You have responsibility. They are going to follow you, which they're supposed to find teachers to follow, but if you lead them wrong, you have that double judgment. And they're going to suffer for it. But they're also going to suffer because they may have blindly followed, or they may have sought an ear tickler, or they may have, so there's a punishment that goes on them too. Okay? Okay. Next question. Bring it back to Daweed.
I just wanted to say thank you, Rabbi, for the teaching. It was very refreshing, and it reminded me of a situation where I've said this before, but I used to be one of those people that thought, people in the mainstream were covenant just confused or whatever, and it became crystal clear to me that they weren't when one particular man was basically saying that he, even though he knew what was written in Scripture and he called himself Messianic, tongue-in-cheek, he still would say that he could bring a Christmas tree in his house because he had felt like the Ruach had told him that he could. And it was like, no, the Ruach and the Word are not going to be in disagreement. I'm sorry. That does it for me. I can't.
Right. I mean, look, the experience that I had that was very crystal, like this was actually literally happening. I was invited to speak down in Georgia, just north of Atlanta, years ago. And the group liked to have me come in and talk, it's on like a weekday night, but they also liked these people they thought were very mature believers, blah, blah, blah. They were almost all mainstream Christian guys. And I heard the guy basically get up there and in doing all of this, as far as he called the people to understand that within the church is the apostate church. No, the entire church is apostate. They don't know it, they don't see it. But he was trying to make the case that no, there are good Christians who are doing things right without Torah, and then there are the bad Christians who are doing things wrong also without Torah. But because they want to try to justify that there is a group that's wrong, it's just not us. Okay? Wherever you are, there's a group that's wrong, it's just not us. That's kind of the mindset that people fall into. Not recognizing that the entire group is actually in a place that's not right. Now, not necessarily to any fault of their own. I don't know how much fault is whose and what's. That's his problem, his issue. It's above my pay grade, right? Okay? But I watched and listened to this guy. I'm thinking, what in the world are you talking about? That's not, you're giving people that false sense of I'm in the right place and I'm okay when they're not. And that's the biggest problem. Why, Rabbi, do you have such a problem with the church? Because they are making people feel they're in the right place and okay when they're not. That's the only reason that I have a problem with it. It's giving them that false sense of I'm good, I'm where I'm supposed to be, I'm in the truth. That bothers me because I end up having to go to a almost like taking people through an intervention detox or something when they finally come out and their heads are all screwed on wrong because all the years of indoctrination and being well churched. And so that's a lot of work. And this is a problem, okay? It's a big problem. All right, who's next? Okay, you can bring it back to Kurt. Okay, and those of you upstairs, hopefully you're watching on the screen we now have upstairs. Note that we are almost done, so you might want to be getting the children ready to come on down. And you can bring them down now, and that would be fine. Go ahead, Kurt.
All right. Janet Hoffman asked a question. Says, Rabbi, we thankfully you are our leader, our prophet. We realize how serious your role is to the Almighty. How can we support your role other than just praying for you?
If you want to support, the same thing, obviously praying for it, but also showing people what it looks like to be in structure. Because there are people that are not comfortable, and they need to hear the testimonies of those of you that have tasted of it and tried it and found it to be what you found it to be, as opposed to what people are assuming it would be, okay? Because some of you only hear this when I'm back behind this lectern and blasting away. You have no idea what I'm like one-on-one. And the heart, the compassion, the patience, the threats to beat up. I'm sorry, that was just a separate thing. Okay? But the other side of it, okay? You need to talk to people to find out when they came, did I make them actually feel safe? Okay? And there are people that have been very unsafe in their experiences who can tell you that they were not believing that it would be this way. They were pretty confident it wouldn't, but then they sat down and realized, oh, he's not just going to blast away. I have to read the word the way it's written to the big audience. When I'm dealing with your personal, private thing, then I have to deal with you as an individual person. And I have to gauge how you should be handled, in what way to talk to you. I'm not going to water it down and tickle your ear, but there's a different tone. I may get real in somebody's face who needs that. I may be really super gentle who needs that. It's about working with that person. And I believe the Ruach has helped me use that discernment most of the time to guess correctly when I'm working with people, okay? But you got to try it. So Janet, since you and Janet and her family have sat with me and we have talked, you guys are the most useful. Because people just think when I say it, I just want everybody under me for I'm a power-crazy dictator or something. But it's you guys who have experienced can tell people, this has been my experience. And you can make the difference in the decisions other people make about this ministry because you have tasted of it and you can tell them, I've talked to him. I've had issues. I've had problems. He's been kind of frustrated with me, but this is how that went or whatever it is. All right? So that you can bring that truth and reality to it. Now, by the way, if you're talking to somebody who's claiming that, be careful that you don't go by just one witness because you may have gotten somebody who just didn't like what I said, and they will paint it in a whole different light. I can give you an example. Back in the day, I was talking to somebody in council. This is years ago. Robert was sitting 8 feet from me in the same office. It was on speakerphone because we were together working with this person. I didn't give the person what they wanted. I talked very softly and very gently the whole time. On Facebook, it came out that I yelled and screamed at her. Never happened. Good thing I had Robert listening, and he was the witness. Okay, by the way, he wasn't just listening in on it. He was part of the conversation. But do you see how that can happen? Don't just go by one person, what they say. But you can be that person that says, I have been there, I've done this, and I would encourage you. Now, you'll know the difference. The person encouraging you to run away without tasting for yourself, don't listen to that person. The person encouraging you to give it a try and see for yourself, listen to that person. Because you need to validate it for yourself and not just be listening to and believing whatever person you feel like believing. Because they may have their own agendas. I would find a person encouraging you to say, look, this was my experience. You need to try this for yourself. I would give them more validity than a person telling you to run. And go get multiple witnesses. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Okay, and of course, please keep us in prayer. Because trust me, the more we reach people, the more there's a giant bullseye and people are attacking. Okay? And it's not going to stop, and I'm okay with that. It's the job. Okay? All right, next question.
All right, Lance Williams asks, Jeremiah 23:30, the prophet who steals from his neighbor, would that be the same as the wicked one in Matthew 13:19, which causes it to fall by the wayside?
it functions the same. Okay, it would function in a similar way. Okay, a person who's giving in to that enemy's influence can cause that result. So I don't think it's necessarily talking about the same thing. Matthew 13 is specifically talking about the enemy. But we can be an extension of that enemy if we're buying into that influence. Okay, it's a good question. Appreciate that. Okay?
All right, Crystal McGee, could Jeremiah 23, verse 40 be indicating everlasting shame as going beyond death? Their actions will be remembered beyond death as a teaching tool.
Yes, it could absolutely do that, which basically matches up also with Matthew, when Matthew says that there are those who will be first and last in the kingdom. Those who teach people to break the Torah will be considered the least. Well, not because they'll be in the kingdom, but when they're being talked about, they say, do you want to know what the lowest people are? Those guys who were teaching people to break the commandments. And those who will be the greatest are those who taught them to keep the covenant, keep the commandments. So yes, I think there might be an ongoing, just like there's an ongoing right now. We read in the scripture some people that did some pretty shameful, dumb things that were, brought reproach on their reputation forever in this book. And we know about those people like Korach. We're going to read about that in an upcoming Torah portion. Korach is going to have his name basically connected with very shameful things. Rebellion. Korach and rebellion go together, don't they? So his name is now linked to that forever. Judas. All I have to do is to say Judas, and you already know. There's the shame that's connected to that. All right, go ahead. Next question.
All right, from Nick Goddard. Could Rabbi reconcile Ezekiel 22, verse 26, and Matthew 12, 5 through 8? Particularly 12:5, what is Yeshua referencing? I've heard Christians use this just by breaking Shabbat. So Matthew 12, 5 through 8.
Matthew 12?
Correct.
Excuse me. Okay, so in Ezekiel, we're talking about not separating the set apart from the profane, and the difference between the unclean and the clean. And in Matthew 12, it's saying that, or did you not read in the Torah that on the Sabbath, the priests in the set apart place profane the Sabbath and are blameless? So it's not that they profane the Sabbath. They do something that you would normally think would be profaning it, but because it's actually commanded of Yahweh, it's not profaning it. In other words, that's a confusion here, but people don't understand what actually is profane and what's not profane. Because people have the understanding that you can't do anything that is physical effort on Shabbat, because that would be profaning the Sabbath. Well, that's not exactly true. The priests are doing that all day on Sabbath, doing all the sacrifices required, etc. That's a Sabbath thing. And so, no, that effort is not the thing, and we talk about that in the Sabbath teaching, okay? The new one that's 3 parts or whatever it is, that teaching, we get into that in more detail. Look, how many days did they go around Jericho? 7? Does that mean that one of them was a Sabbath? I don't see how your math could work any other way. So they literally marched around a city on a Sabbath. Did that profane the Sabbath? No. If you do what Yahweh said on his set-apart time, you are not profaning it. He had them leave Egypt on a holy day. Right? The first day of unleavened bread, they're leaving Egypt. That's a lot of work. Pack everything up and leave. And so it's about setting it apart. What does set apart mean? See, now we have to define things. Profane means that it's being used for something that Yahweh hadn't meant it to be used for, perverting it, twisting, etc. What does set apart mean? That it's being used for exactly what he intended. And so if it's his intent, we're submitting on Sabbath to him completely. We're taking a whole day off to just make sure we're doing what he wants us to do. Now, we don't have him now actually dictating things like go around a city 7 times. We just read his word, we take the time off, we have the Mikra Kodesh, we have the set-apart gathering. Because I've had people say, well, we had to move some tables around and that's work and we're breaking the Sabbath. No, it's not. It's not about the actual physical exertion. It's about being here, not being at your job. It's about being where he is, hearing the word, fellowshipping together, having that gathering, taking the 24 hours and putting it to focus on him. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay? But yes, you're right. There are people that would use Matthew 12:5 to say that they could break the Sabbath. All right? Well, wait, hold on. Let's go back to Matthew 12 for a second. What are the rules of context? Come on. Who's speaking? Who's the audience? What's going on? What's the issue? All right, so what is going on before we get to verse 5? I don't know. How about verse 1? At that time, Yeshua went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his taught ones were hungry, and they began to pluck heads of grain to eat. Now, are they harvesting? No. They're taking, it's like if you went through an orchard and there was an apple tree and you reached up and grabbed one and you ate that apple because you were hungry. You don't have a bushel bag with you and a basket or whatever, and you're not picking them all up and you're putting them in the, and harvesting. So the issue is they're being accused by who? The Pharisees, who are trying to catch Yeshua in law breaking. Well, by the way, if the law was done away with, why didn't he just finally say to the Pharisees, they don't need to do this? He didn't say that. He's saying your understanding of the law is not correct. The Pharisees saw it. They said to him, look, your taught ones are doing what is not right to do on the Sabbath. And he's saying, that's not true. You guys came up with that rule. It's in the Talmud. It's in the list of 39 things you can't do on Shabbat. It's a Talmudic thing. He said, no, that's a man-made rule fence that you can't go in a field where there's grain and pluck something and eat it. Doesn't say that anywhere in the Torah. But he said to them, have you not read what David did when he was hungry? Have you not, and it goes again with the Sabbaths and profane. But he says profane, he's saying according to the way you're describing it, they would be profaning it. But it's not profaning because the Torah never said such a thing. You see how context is important. Yeshua's talking. Who's he talking to? A Pharisee and an audience watching the discussion. And so when he's using the word profane, he's using the Pharisees' definition. He's saying, well, according to you, the priests are profaning the Sabbath when they do these things. How can that be? How can a priest who's doing what Yahweh commanded be actually profaning something Yahweh commanded? So that's what Yeshua is trying to straighten that mess out. Okay, next question.
All right, Ed Ruiz, is anyone who says Yahweh told me the same as Jeremiah 23:38, where it says the message of Yahweh making themselves like a prophet?
No, look, I don't want to get you into the judge's seat. Stop, don't do that. Don't feel like somehow you now need to, come to a judgment when anybody does anything. Just worry about you and your plank. I would recommend that you be very cautious and reluctant to say those words. I had a lady, I told you the story all the time, in Knoxville, used to come up every week. Father told me to tell you. Yahweh told me to tell you. Yahweh told me. It's like, enough already. Yahweh told me to tell you. He has my number. Okay? And so, but I would be very reluctant. Now, if other people are doing it, your job is to do what? To decide what to do with what they say or whether you listen to them, not to worry about whether that means they're the person talked about in Jeremiah. I don't know. You don't know. Maybe Yahweh really did tell them. You have a choice to listen or not listen and then apply it to the test of Torah, and is it leading you more towards Yahweh or away? Now be careful with that because you may feel it's leading you towards Yahweh. Is it leading you towards Yahweh or the image of Yahweh you want Yahweh to be? Ooh. Are they leading you towards Yahweh as he is or the version of him that's in your head that you want to believe him to be? Ooh, be careful with that. Mic drop. Okay? That's where you get in trouble because people say, oh, well, I really believed he was leading me to Yahweh. No, the Yahweh version that you want him to be in your head or the real Yahweh? What he really says or what you'd like it to say? Or what it really means or what you'd like it to mean? That's the ear-tickling problem. You're looking for someone who's going to interpret it to match you. So you look, that's why people listen to, when you're looking for something, you may listen to 6, 7, 8, 12 different teachers on that subject on YouTube trying to find what? The one you like. Not the one that's right. You're looking for the one that you like. Now you think you're looking for the one that's right, but the filter you're using is whether you like what they say. Because you think the Ruach is going to help you discern that it's right. And so if you like it, it must be the right one. Well, I didn't like that because that's not the right one. Be careful with all of that. All right, next question.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. All right. So hopefully, is the TV working up there, Wayne? Do you know? I'm saying the one in the baby room. That one? Oh, the big room's working, but the one in the nursing room and the toddler room isn't working? Oh, the big one didn't work. Okay, just go get them anyway. Okay. What was that? Okay. Get them all this time. They came down in waves last week, like, nobody told us. we were in the back and nobody got us. Okay, so as we're waiting for them, let me kind of go back to that mic drop thing. You have to be aware that your worst enemy and biggest issue is you filtering the information through you, through the the preferences. Be careful of how your preferences and your desires for wanting it to be a certain way, or you're hoping it'll be a certain way, or you know what I'm saying, is going to affect your ability to discern things correctly. I can't tell you how many people have listened to the teaching I did on divorce, putting away, and remarriage and putting away, whatever the name of it was, who cannot understand a word I'm saying because they cannot get past their preference and their filters of the indoctrination, so they're not even hearing me. It's not that they disagree. They're not even, when they quote back what I said, they'll say to me, well, what about this verse? I'm like, I spent a half an hour on that verse. So they're not telling me they disagree. They couldn't even receive the information because they're so wrapped up in their preferences and their indoctrination that they weren't even aware that I actually covered that verse, because it's usually one of those one in Matthew or whatever that I did like 30 minutes on. And they'll still say to me, yeah, but I don't know what to do because I know God hates divorce. If you listen to the teaching, you have to know I taught completely opposite that he hates putting away, that divorce is a whole different issue. It's translated wrong out of the Greek. It's translated wrong out of the Hebrew. It's an English translation. It's a Christianity problem, whatever. I'm just saying it's the preferences, though, that are filtering and that people cannot hear through it's cognitive dissonance, if you even know what that means. All that noise in your head that prevents you from hearing things correctly. Okay? All right, Nate, go ahead.
I had a friend approach me about, they caught the MTOI live stream last week, and they were like, wow, what a great teaching. I was like, yes, I know he's my rabbi, it's great. And he said, and then somehow it got around to the point of, well, I'm looking for a teacher. And I said, well, I think this would be a great teacher. Go and listen to some of the teachings other than what you've heard. And then it got around to, well, I'm looking for a teacher who will basically agree with what I've learned in my doctrine. And I had to think, and I sent back a and they were like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, I would like to find a teacher who is actually teaching the word without any holes in it, rather than looking for something that's going to agree with me. And so I sent them to, one of the points that they had was about the Trinity. So I sent them to, do you know the Father and the Son teaching? And after they listened to the first one, they had already kind of gotten some kind of a perspective, and I know their background. So I was like, you can't get a full understanding of what he's trying to say with 1/11 of the teaching. You need to listen to the whole teaching and then come to a conclusion, and then maybe we can discuss it. But
Amen.
So I don't know where they went with that, but I really appreciated it, and it was. I hope that person is still continuing with the teaching and continuing to follow.
But that's a universal problem. When I say it's like common, very all over the place. I mean, I remember, and I've told this story, but I was at a congregation down in Georgia, a different one that I mentioned earlier, where they were thinking of having me maybe become their teacher. This is years ago. And there's a lady that waited till the very end to ask me a lot of questions. And ultimately the problem was she wanted to see if I lined up with her before she decided to come and join this congregation. And I'm like, why do you care if I line up with you? You should want me to line up with the book, not with you. Okay? But she wanted to see if I lined up with her so she can come to a place that she's comfortable, is going to teach her what she wants to hear the way she wants it. And I told her that place ends up alone in her living room, and she got mad at me. Well, I told her, please don't get offended, but if that's the criteria you're going to use to find a place where the people have to match up with you and agree with you, you're going to end up alone in your living room because nobody's going to agree with you 100%. Okay? And so she got mad. It is what it is. So I went home and I cried and, So, but it's the foolishness of the self-driving that, don't let the I drive. Me, I got it my way, I don't like this and that. So I only want to go to a place where everything agrees with me. Fine, start your own congregation. I mean, if that's so important to you, you grab a mic and tell everybody your way. Okay? And I promise you, you have no idea how hard this job is if this is all you see. All right? You don't know. You just don't. All right. Do we have everybody? Awesome. Okay. Did the TV not work for the movies or did? Okay, good. And did the TV work in the kids' room where you could see the live stream? Awesome. We got the technology working. Yay. Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close. Where's the mic? Okay, Austin, I have, who did I say? Who did I ask to do the closing? Okay, Rick. Okay, just you can stay there, Rick. He's going to bring you the mic. And the camera will focus on you where you are. Okay? So Rick Berry's going to go ahead and close us in prayer. This is not to intimidate those of you that want to come and be a guest, and I'm just going to make you work like that. I did ask Rick if he was okay with it. Okay, but you should be wanting to come and be a part, and if you are a part in the virtual congregation, you should be very comfortable when you come to take a role when you're here. And I appreciate Rick doing that. And so Rick is going to now close us in prayer.
Abba, Father, we thank you for your Torah. We thank you for your word. May we implant it in our hearts so you can bring it back out, plant it in our minds and our hearts so that we can bring it out and live it fully. We thank you for the leadership of MTOI that is ever vigilant and conscious of their responsibility in handling your word and delivering it as you gave it to us. May we live out your Torah in our lives and be an example to our children, to those in our sphere of influence, of your awesomeness, your truth, and the blessings in following your Son, Yeshua. All this we ask in his name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rick. All right, for those of you that would like to be on camera to wave to those on the live stream, you can come on up here, and we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, right. Maybe. Maybe. They were asking, is this what rabbis like when he gets sleep? I don't know. We'll see. I was just starting to get some. Where's Stephen? Oh, he's on camera. He's on the camera. That's okay. I'll put my daughter in front of me then instead. Come over here, daughter. All right, so when we get everybody, wait, Stephen is coming. Let him in. Come on around. There you go. All right. We got everybody? Ready, Marty? We good? Okay, so we're going to, on three, we're going to do Shabbat Shalom, then Shavua Tov, and all that kind of good stuff. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.